deal. What time? Okay. Oh, good. Thank you. Did you already delete it? Don't worry about it. 6:05 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Off and running. Glad to have you on board this morning. I want to start off with that traffic report that we've been having some little computer issues in the morning and have not been able to get you that first traffic report. We're looking good. Everything's looking good right now. There are no delays on the interstates. There are no accidents to report on the surface streets. About the only thing to be heads up about this morning is the construction on I-10 westbound coming up towards the 10-12 split, where you've got to slow down to about 50 miles per hour in that in that area. Other than that, we're good to go, and we should be off and running. Traffic we'll have every 10 minutes throughout this first hour, and then repeatedly throughout the rest of the morning. Hey, you heard that forecast from Marissa Nuzzo. I think that's where I want to start this morning, but let me give you the rundown first. Coach Ogeron met with the media yesterday. We will have a ton of audio from there. T-Bob Hebert is going to hop on board at 6:35 this morning. Talk about the Texas A&M series. The Texas A&M series has kind of grown into a nice little rivalry, and this will be the final round of Ed Ogeron versus Jimbo Fisher, which has produced some fantastic ball games, one of which took 7 overtimes to settle. 2018. Then, of course, 2019 was part of the greatest season in the history of college football, and there's been some history there since Jimbo Fisher was once here at LSU. It was thought he was going to replace Les Miles and then didn't, and it's been a fun series. They're a fun team to dislike. We'll talk with T-Bob about the series as a whole and maybe get into a little bit about who could be next, who's the next head coach at LSU. In our 7 o'clock hour, Andrew Fitzgerald from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber is going to hop on board at 7:15. Looking forward to talking with him about the number of available jobs in Baton Rouge. What's unemployment looking like? But in contrast, the number of jobs that are still available is kind of up there. That's at 7:15. 7:35, State Representative Mark Wright is going to join us. I want to talk with Mark Wright about transportation dollars. We are about to see an influx of transportation dollars as a result of the infrastructure package. What does that mean from the legislature's perspective? Mark Wright heads up the Transportation Committee on the House side. That's why I called on him. Will these dollars go straight to the DOTD? Will the legislature have some level of oversight? If these dollars do go straight to the DOTD, then what happens to the regular transportation budget? Does it affect priorities at that point? Mark happens to be from Covington, and I only bring that up because every region of the state has their own DOTD project that is most important to them. For example, if you're from Lake Charles, you want to see that I-10 bridge in Lake Charles get redone. If you're here in Baton Rouge, you want a new Mississippi River Bridge. If you're in Covington, you would like to see I-12 widened, the duration of I-12. All the way from, where does it squeeze back down to 2 lanes each way? About Walker, I think? No, you want to see I-12, 3 lanes, both directions, all the way through Slidell till it rejoins I-10 again. Mark Wright at 7:35. In our 8 o'clock hour, we got to talk security. We got to talk about Wisconsin, for crying out loud, from 2 different stories. The Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Will we see further incidents from that? And this Waukesha Christmas parade. From a security standpoint, what could have been done, what should have been done, what should we be on the lookout for? And I want to take the Rittenhouse verdict and roll it over into what's going to happen in Georgia. Paul Viollis literally wrote the book on this. The book is called Safeguarding America, the blueprint for keeping you and your family safe. The book covers all kinds of ground, from parents and children, protecting the home front, on the road, crimes against your person, cyber threats. Chapter 6 is titled Public-Related Risks and has a little subchapter called Managing Your Personal Safety While at Public Events. That seems to apply here. Chapter 10 is called Police-Community Relations, which has a subchapter called Protest versus Riot. Could not find a better person to call on than Paul Viollis, longtime law enforcement official, he was CBS's law enforcement expert for quite some time. and he continues on as a safety and security expert. We'll talk with Paul at 8:15. Then we'll round out the guest list. Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Okay, so every year, for I don't know how many recent years now, every year, the actual football, the main football, for the Bayou Classic is run from Southern University all the way down to the Superdome. They physically run the ball. Sergeant Adams with the U.S. Army is part of the team that's doing the running this year. And he's going to join me at 8:40 to talk about running the Bayou Classic ball from Southern to the Superdome. Now, I said I wanted to lead off the show, and I'm going to have just enough time to do it. Said I wanted to lead off the show by talking about the forecast. That actually comes into play here. Because temperatures, while they're really low this morning, they're going to get all the way back up into the 70s tomorrow, but we are looking at a greater chance of showers as well. What we're looking at for tomorrow is likely rain on the second busiest travel day of the year. Well, I say that. It looks like the rain's going to push back through Thursday now. And it's going to be combined with a front that's going to cool things back off again. Sergeant Adams is looking more and more like he's going to have a nice clean run down to New Orleans. He and his team. And then Thanksgiving Day, if you're out and about on Thanksgiving Day, that afternoon, if you have the choice to sleep through the afternoon game or hit the road early, you might want to consider hitting the road early. We're looking at rain on Thanksgiving Day from about 3 p.m. until the wee hours, until late at night. And then it's going to get cold after that. Super cold. Like overnight low, Thursday is 44, Friday's high tops out at 58, overnight low Friday into Saturday morning, 36 degrees. Yikes. So, Sergeant Adams and his team look like they're in the clear for their run. But after that, on Thanksgiving Day, might have a rough go of it on the roads on Thursday afternoon into the evening. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back from that break, Ed Ogeron met with the media yesterday. We will have some audio for you coming up next. Before we take that break, though, got to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. I tell you about them every day. Doug and his team, they pride themselves on their continued training. They pride themselves on their certification. They make sure they know the latest techniques when it comes to fixing your vehicle and getting you and your family back on the road safely. But another thing they do at either location of Complete Collision Center, Plank Road and Zachary, or Perkins just east of Bluebonnet, another thing they do, they pick up the battle with your insurance company. And this is something that you can expect. If you've ever been in an accident, you already know what I'm talking about. You're going to have a battle with your insurance company where if you're filing a claim, they're going to try and nickel and dime you down to you don't need this, you don't need that, you don't need an original equipment manufacturer's part. You can use an aftermarket part here, an aftermarket part there. Aftermarket parts are also often square pegs trying to fit in a round hole. You don't need it. You want the OEM parts, you want the OEM service or the certified service, and you're going to get that at Complete Collision Center. 2 locations. Plank Road and Zachary, Perkins just east of Bluebonnet. Call them at 768-9898, 768-9898, or visit CompleteCollision.com. Okay, thank you. Okay, savor this one more. Life is about accumulating and building up money. And what is having money do? It gives you options in life. And ultimately, it gives us options the transfer portal. Eventually on producing income. What? I was saying looking at what does money do for you on a long-term basis of saving. It gives you options on leaving a job to go do something else you want to do. It could be not working again or working someplace selling LSU to current players. It gives you a lot of choices. So that's kind of the core. What we like to do at Winning at Life is help you with Is it selling LSU to current players? Okay. Yeah.
Players
Dollar
wanting
Supply
to
Company, your
for
local
him.
case construction dealer. I'd like to thank you for your support
Yep.
over the years. We've been a case dealer since
Would he
1971
coach?
and continue to grow strong with the case brand. As a certified diamond level case dealer, we're able to
Would he
bring you
coach
the
bowl
best
games?
prices and product support
Yep.
in the industry. Give us a call to try
On
out our
Max
new
was
M-Series
2LM.
dozers and
Nope.
D-Series
Lessons
excavators.
his team
And don't
has
forget
learned
to
through
ask about our
adversity.
lease purchase
Nope.
program. Call 225-357-7515
Hope it's a great atmosphere.
or
Yeah.
at crawlersupply.com. Crawler Supply Company,
Yeah.
a case
No.
construction
Wants to do
industry.
some
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
wants to do some speaking in time off. Team will be fired up for Saturday. Is there a certain player he will miss most? Just haven't put it all together on offense yet.
Some of these we're gonna have to save for tomorrow. There's a lot of good stuff here.
There is a lot of good stuff here. Just a heads up, the Micah basketball one is 33 seconds long. Everything else is
Okay.
20. Right now we have 7 cuts.
All right, Sage. Rick's to the transfer
See an
portal.
accident reported at WBRZ traffic on
This
Twitter.
report is brought to you by Shell.
Savor this one
where you
more.
get up to
So it's gonna go
$170
five,
for the purchase of 4 eligible
three.
Michelin tires. Visit
Update on Mason Smith and Sage
shellgolftire.com to
Ryan.
learn more.
537.
I'm Jay Ducote, and we are on season 2 of
And
the Jay Ducote
that's
Show.
probably all we're gonna have time for in this one.
A little bit of news,
We might
a
come
whole
back
lot
after the
of
break to have
fun.
selling LSU to the current players and the players wanting to win.
Okay, just a head, yeah.
It's good. 5-3-7 this time out.
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry. 5-7-3 this time out.
Oh, okay.
Six 17 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. LSU Texas A&M coming up Saturday in Tiger Stadium. 6 p.m. is your kickoff for that one. Could very well be Ed Ogeron's last game overall. If they do not win, they do not advance to a bowl game. They do not have the opportunity for a bowl game. Now, it's going to be interesting whether or not LSU would play in a bowl game. We'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, though, I want to talk about this game specifically. Let's start with some bad news from the roster standpoint, and that is Elias Ricks, defensive back, former 5-star Elias Ricks, has entered the transfer portal. Ed Ogeron commented on that yesterday.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Eli. I haven't talked to his mom. I heard the same reports. I guess they're true. I don't know if they are or not.
You talk about and look, I'm not shocked by this at all. If for no other reason, you knew some attrition would come from letting your coach go, especially a coach who, throughout the recruiting process, regardless of the recruiting class, throughout the recruiting process, if you had the chance to talk to any recruits or recruits' families, and interestingly enough, I by happenstance, just by chance, I ran into Elias Ricks' family on campus one day. I was going over to produce, I believe I was producing either a basketball game or a baseball game. But you know how they take those publicity photos? You know, all the photos in the uniform so they're ready to roll for signing day and whatnot. They were on campus for that. And they were looking for where to meet Coach O or where to meet any of the personnel in order to, and it's like a dead day on campus. There's nothing else going on. I just happened to be walking up to the admin building. And as I'm trying to run down some folks from LSU, I knew a couple people I could call, but I'm talking to Elias Ricks' grandmother, and she just could not shut up about the family vibe, the family atmosphere. It's a tight-knit family. We wouldn't trust sending our baby halfway across the country if it weren't for a family atmosphere. And when you build that type of bond, that type of relationship, you could expect there's going to be attrition when you make a change. So, Eli Ricks in the transfer portal. Sad, but not shocking. We got more coming up after Fox Business Report.
So you want 7-3 now? And that's it for today?
No. Yes, 7-3. And then, yeah, we'll talk about those other three tomorrow. Hey, good morning, Christy. Welcome in, sweetheart. I haven't even opened YouTube yet. So, hello.
Puerto Rico is the new go-to destination for investment opportunities, and Impeller is the new online tool that connects investors with innovative projects seeking capital on the island. Impeller takes the guesswork out of investing in Puerto Rico, surfacing the insights you need to make informed decisions and empower your investment portfolio. Visit investbr.org/impeller and set up your account today to see what the island has to offer. Impeller, your hub for investment opportunities in Puerto Rico. Powered by Invest Puerto Rico.
We're supposed to have traffic here?
You're supposed to have a break here and then traffic.
You know what I love about this time of year? The 3F's. Fall, football, and fishing. So why don't you take your fishing game to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boats. Front to Back Boat Service has been family owned and operated for nearly 30 years. And the Sherman NMEA certified. That, my friend, is the National Marine Electronics Association. Meaning, at Front to Back, they are committed to improving the safety and technology of marine electronics. They do this through how they treat their installers, interface standards. The bottom line is they are always pushing the technological limits while keeping you safe. And look, when you're talking about the fall and the winter, you're talking about the perfect time to do any yearly maintenance that you need done. Finally put in the parts you've always dreamed about. And at Front to Back Boat Service, they do it all. So find them on Facebook, Front to Back Boat Service, or
Yeah.
see them at 221 North Airway Drive. Front to Back Boat Service. They do it all.
Hey parents, here's some good news for America's future. Kids ages 5 to 11 are now eligible for a COVID vaccine. That means all those future CEOs and artists, world-class chefs and sports stars, the engineers and the innovators are eligible for a vaccine that can help protect their future. And it's specifically formulated just for them. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Big news from Simply Safe Home Security. Okay. Actually, I think the horns are too much. Yeah, that's better. Big news. The new wireless outdoor security camera is here. Yes, Simply Safe's award-winning home security just got even better, taking whole home protection to a whole new level. Okay, I'm missing the horns. Simply Safe is celebrating this new camera with 50% off a new system this week. Visit simplysafe.com.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
The drive, they're cranking up the heat. Other than that, you really don't have much to worry about. No crashes. 7 minutes from the Flint to LA 1. So I-10 just fine. As you know, driving is probably going to be lighter this week in the morning as not a lot of people are going to school. Some of you still have to work, of course, and then by Wednesday, we're going to see traffic ramping up of the holiday travel. So just your choice today. Right now, no problems on the Spillway Bridge. Looking good if you're going to Lafayette or Kenner. Normal drive time. See you outside. And check on I-12. Caroline High. One's fine.
See an accident? Reported at WBRZ traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 eligible Michelin tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
.624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So LSU and Texas A&M will square off Saturday evening in Tiger Stadium, the final chapter of Ed Ogeron versus Jimbo Fisher. We will dive into that a little bit in our next segment with T-Bob Hebert. But for now, more audio from Ed Ogeron's press conference yesterday. In just a second, I'm going to talk about the Biden administration has decided to tap into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. What does that mean for us here in Louisiana? We'll get to that in a second. Back to the Ed Ogeron press conference. He did give some updates on Mason Smith and Sage Ryan. Injuries have plagued this team all season long. How are these two guys looking?
Yeah, I think we're going to get Mason back. In fact, he ran out of the field at halftime against the last game. I said, you can run, you can go put your uniform on. He laughed. But I think we have Mason back, and I think we have Sage Ryan back, but he fell sick again today. I think he's going to miss practice because he fell sick, but hopefully he's better towards the end of the week.
Now, like I said, it's going to be the final chapter of Orgeron versus Fisher. Does that mean the coach is going to take a minute to just really soak this one in and savor this one a little bit more?
Yeah, with me, it's always been about the team. The 19 seniors, their last home game, so I want to think about them first. I want to set them out the right way. I don't think it's going to hit me till the end, and I really don't think that way. But I am appreciative of the time I had here. A lot of great days.
God, the tenor of this whole thing makes it sound like Saturday's going to be his last game regardless. I'm curious as to whether or not there's a bowl game in the future. We could dive into that at a later date. But for now, LSU, Texas A&M, Saturday at 6 p.m. Coverage will be on our sister station, Eagle 98.1, all afternoon long Saturday. I believe pregame starts at 1. So, it was announced yesterday that a senior White House official confirmed President Biden will announce his decision to release oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve as of today. The administration's been pushing China, India, Japan, and South Korea to join in a coordinated effort to release reserves of crude oil. An agreement could help keep gasoline prices lower 2 days before the busy Thanksgiving holiday and travel season. The president should deliver remarks this afternoon on the economy and lowering prices for the American people. Now, that was announced yesterday. I'm curious. Congressman Garrett Graves joins us every Wednesday. Hopefully he's on tomorrow. I need to go ahead and confirm that since it is the day before Thanksgiving. I cannot wait to hear his take on this. And if I can predict it, I'm guessing he's going to say if you're tapping into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, well, number one, the reason you're doing so is to make up for a number of bad calls when it comes to energy policy. But number two, aren't we also looking to get Americans back to work? And if we're looking to get Americans back to work, then why not put them back to work in the petroleum business? Things like moratoriums on leases, things like shutting down the Keystone Pipeline, things like not moving forward with domestic energy production. All these things would have the exact same effect when it comes to your price at the pump, but they would also create more jobs. Tapping into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve does not create jobs. It just gives you a little bit more fuel, literally and figuratively. This part about waiting on other nations, it factors into it as well. This is one we've talked with Congressman Graves, we've talked with Senator Cassidy. We've talked with Mike Moncla from the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. Stephen Wagaspack has sounded off on it as well from Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Across the board, what you're going to find is that we do it better than the other nations. We do it cleaner than the other nations. It just makes sense to get back into the oil business. Don't stop, by any stretch of the imagination, don't stop pushing for alternative energies. But at the same time, though, don't cut off the source of jobs, the source of energy, the source of what we've been doing right. Let that keep moving forward while you work towards other aspects, while you work down other avenues. So I'm guessing when Congressman Graves joins us tomorrow, that's exactly what we're going to hear. What we're going to hear from the congressman is this is a foolish move. This is a backtracking move to make up for foolish decisions. This move to tap into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve serves nothing but kind of a, can we get a mulligan? Just guessing. All right, we got a lot of ground to cover. Like we said, we're going to dive back into LSU versus Texas A&M. T-Bob Hebert is going to join us in our next segment. Also, we had State Representative John Stefanski on the show yesterday. I did not realize at the time he was going to be at the press club yesterday as well, talking about that special session. There will be a special session in February to discuss redistricting. This is going to be something that is going to dominate the news cycle throughout December and January leading up to said special session. It's something we have to see once a decade, And this one is going to mean a lot. John Stefanski was at the press club yesterday. We've got some audio from that if you missed it on this show yesterday. By the way, if you did miss John Stefanski on this show yesterday, he's available on demand at talk1073.com. Fantastic conversation about redistricting, about the difference between population versus geographical boundaries, what goes into it, who is part of the decision-making process, what role does the governor play. It's all there. Anyway, we'll talk about that a little later on this hour as well. Right now, here's news. All right, what's going on inside of the YouTube world? Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Renee. Good morning, Clint. Good morning, Galen. Let's see. Biden using the SPR for his bad policies. Yeah. Okay. I looks like you're on the same page as me there, Eric. Classic Democratic strategy: restrict petroleum supply side, prices rise. Then call for congressional investigations into the oil companies' profits and releasing oil from. Yep. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve was created to provide energy for our military at a time of war. That is correct, but it's overflowing though. Like it's at a point where one has to ask, why are we still saving it? Marissa says the forecast is in there, in the drive. So. I'll tell you exactly what she says it's listed as. It's labeled Tuesday AMWX. Okay. Is it possible that our drive just isn't updating, or because there's no way it's updating everything but that? Good. Okay, then that would not be her.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
Drive to crank up the heat. Other than that, you really won't have to worry about no crashes. 7 minutes from Wood to LA1, so I-10 is fine. As you know, traffic is probably going to be lighter this week in the mornings, as not a lot of people are going to school. Some you still have work, of course, and then by Wednesday, we're going to see traffic ramping up the holiday travel. So just enjoy today. Right now, no problems on the Spillway Bridge. Looking good if you're going to Lafayette or Kenner from sticking outside. And check an eye as well. Caroline Highway looks fine.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 eligible Michelin tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
My son is not some statistic. My daughter's not a headline.
My girl, she's not someone's agenda.
What she is irreplaceable. COVID hospitalizations of young people.
What up?
Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
How long did y'all run for after the game Saturday?
Oh, we did a full hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. I just can't find, I don't know, going through a streak of just losing shit. It's pissing me off. Can't find my wallet, my AirPods, all my credit cards.
Hmm.
I know. It's weird. Very weird. Very frustrating.
Wallet, AirPods, and what else?
My credit card. But the credit card was lost before the wallet.
Ah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's just crazy streak. It's pissing me off.
Come explore Total Wine and More. Now open in Baton Rouge at the Second Village Shopping Center.
World of Warcraft came out today in 2004.
Big news from Simply
Man, talk about a game that I absolutely loved that they just ran into the ground here recently. I was on WoW Classic when they released it. But Blizzard's, yeah, exactly. I think Kodak's going to get fired.
The board of directors gave him like a vote of confidence.
No, I know, but have you seen the latest from like this last week? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they'll give him a vote of confidence, but if that stock keeps dropping, he'll get fired.
Bro, they literally had like dirty, frat house.
Oh yeah. Oh no. It's so even you heard about Kodak telling that like assistant that he would kill her and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
Weather. .638 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. So, yes, we've already had our sports segment, but coming up this weekend will be the final chapter of Ed Ogeron versus Jimbo Fisher, and what has evolved into what is, as far as I'm concerned, a pretty decent rivalry. Texas A&M versus LSU. I mean, they're not the newest to the Southeastern Conference. LSU had history with A&M before they were in the Southeastern Conference, but of recent years, this game has kind of rocketed to the top of the charts. Near the top of the charts, at least. Joining me now to talk about that from 104.5, 104.9's Off the Bench, T-Bob Abear. T-Bob, what's happening, sir?
Yo, Brain, what's up, dude? What's going on?
Nothing much, man. Just getting ready for this this final battle between these two, which has, I mean, the situation in which one became the head coach and one did not is kind of part of the whole thing. But let's set the table. What's the game going to look like Saturday?
It's tough to say because in these two teams you have two of the more mercurial teams in the SEC. Now some people may be thinking, oh, well, it's just, I mean, A&M's going to win, right? And yes, like if you were just odds on choosing who will win the game, yeah, I think the safe, smart play would be Texas A&M. But I don't think it's quite as lopsided as a lot of people think, given by the fact that I think that line opened at like 6.5, right? Despite the fact that Texas A&M has beaten Alabama this year and had a much better year than LSU, they are not infallible. They have an elite defense. They have an offense that has been very up or down. And that's because of the quarterback play, which has been very up and down. So certainly, again, odds-on favorite, Texas A&M to win, but with the way this LSU defense is playing lately, and I mean, you look at how they shut down Alabama, then they go and they shut down Arkansas, and look at what those two teams just did against each other in a 45 or 42-35 game, right?
Right.
Then okay, that defense, if they come out and do that again, you're getting Mason Smith, you're getting Sage Ryan back, they do that again, you're going to give yourself a fighting chance. Where you obviously get worried is the LSU offense has kind of continued to nosedive, and A&M's defense is elite. They are one of the best in the country.
So A&M's defense being elite is kind of my concern. Getting Mason Smith and Sage Ryan back would be great, but you're already talking about a defense that is close to pitching shutouts. I mean, they're doing really well. So you get two guys back on a strong
I am
defense.
excited to see Mason Smith in this 3-4 defense. I mean, Tony Fanua's done a very fine job, but seeing Neil Farrell with Mason Smith on at one of the head up tackle positions, and then why am I blanking? Who's the other one? Jaquelin Roy. Yeah. Seeing Neil Farrell, Jaquelin Roy, Mason Smith all on the field at the same time should be very exciting.
It should be, and having Sage Ryan back in the backfield will be big as well. From an offensive standpoint, though, I mean, is it just a matter of LSU is a play or two away from making it happen, or is this we're so deep in the weeds on the offensive side that we saw Garrett Nussmeier a couple weeks ago, and we're not going to see him.
Yeah.
Max Johnson does not look like he has it completely together yet. Is that
Yeah, I mean,
that's not something he could solve from last week to this week.
No, I mean that's fair, but it is odd in which sometimes the overall stats don't look as bad as the offense feels, and like there's road to production. The problem is I don't really blame Max. I think that when you're talking about this LSU offense, you're talking about an offense that is fundamentally flawed in a lot of ways in terms of its conception, and it doesn't always put players in the best position to succeed. Like I think the quarterbacks are in a lot of tough decision points and aren't always exactly helped out by the design of the offense. So look, the offense will not have a good game, most likely. That's just, you're a bad offense going against a great defense. That's just how it goes. So it would take them doing something they haven't really done this year if they're going to have success offensively.
What does it take to summon that? Asking you as a former player, what does it take to get where just the will to win can drive you over the top? Is that even a thing?
I mean, it's tough because you can certainly be checked out, right? So I don't want to act like willpower and like drive and motivation are not a factor, because they are. Because you can give up, right? Like we've all seen games where a team is clearly kind of checked out and given up, and it just is what it is. Hell, you could probably look at Florida and see some of that here recently. That is one thing I like about this team is I don't feel that they've given up.
Right.
And you've even seen Coach O kind of echo that sentiment as well.
Those that are still in it are still in it.
Yes. But at the end of the day, willpower can only make up for so much, right? I mean, Texas A&M's is vastly more talented than you in that defensive versus offensive matchup, which it appears like they are. I could want to block Jordan Davis from Georgia as I could want it more than anything in the world, and I could not block Jordan Davis from Georgia.
Right. But I
wanted to block Fletcher Cox back in the day.
Well,
that's
an impossible task. But we're talking about Ed Ogeron's last or potentially last game. I don't know if a bowl game is even still being talked about.
No, they asked him yesterday at his press conference, and he said it was a very upfront answer. He just said basically that he has to talk to the administration. They haven't had that conversation.
Golly, I mean it's sad. But even more so to beat Texas A&M, like you're talking like if this is Ed Ogeron's last game completely, bowl game or not, last game overall, right? I mean you're talking shirtless, full on Braveheart face paint Ed Ogeron. Like this would be the next level of rallying.
Yeah, the players have been very clear that they are playing for Coach O this week and that they want to send him off on a positive note. And I mean, I echo that sentiment. This is a man who, don't even get me started on how mad I get on these, like, what I would almost describe as, like, misinformation campaigns to try to discredit the success of the past. But, like, this is a man who, whether you want to admit it or not, was the architect and driving force behind a 15-0 season and a perfect national championship year that may be the greatest year of college football that's ever been had. And so, yeah, I think I want to send that guy out on top with a win. So it would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree with everything in that last statement except for the maybe. That would be the only word I would have removed from that entire thing. The greatest season in the history of college football. Okay, so 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Who replaces Ed Ogeron? Who are we? I mean, I know we all don't know. Everybody's speculating.
Woodward's keeping it super close to the vest, man.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't even – I literally have nothing to add to the conversation beyond what you're already seeing, right? Also, like, I don't know what names are super real to Woodward and what's not. I do think it's interesting in that because of the timing of this, I got to imagine that they're closer than what the reporting is, which shows they're doing a good job of keeping it on the vest, right? Because there's still like 5 or 6 names floating around. There's no way if they're announcing a hire early next week that they are still looking at 5 or 6 different guys.
No, exactly.
And there's still like different games that you got to like, if Oklahoma makes a playoff or doesn't, that would change things significantly. So there still are results that will inform the search. But yeah, I have no idea.
Who would you like to see?
I am an optimist, Brain, and at this point, it's a bit like Schrodinger's coach, right? Until you open the box, you don't know if they're good or bad. So I'm just going to choose to believe that they will be good. And like I said, I talked myself into Peets and Jones and came up with I thought were very logical arguments for why they could be or would be successful.
Well, and that's worked out on the defensive side.
Anyway, yeah, exactly, right? So I'll do the same thing with – I like all the candidates. Like there's no candidate that super turns me off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Bold prediction. In the ultimate jersey swap, halftime Jimbo Fisher just moves across from one side of the field to the other.
Oh my God! What a way to announce it!
Wouldn't it be like the biggest
straight,
thing ever? Just rips off his Texas A&M shirt, puts on an LSU shirt,
just straight WWE.
Right, or just even better, has Ogeron handed to him. Here, you wear this. T-Bob Bear on 104.5, 104. Oh, y'all got Ogeron again today, right?
So he actually just texted. He has to bump back to tomorrow morning.
Gotcha.
So tomorrow morning, 7:30, last time with Coach O stopping by. I know.
7 to 10 every day on 104.5 ESPN. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, Brain. All right, Jake.
Thank you, T-Bob.
Later, boys.
Later. Yeah.
Time is not on your side, but Advanticlean is. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 225-369-5228. Advanticlean.com. This is former LSU pitcher and avid outdoorsman.
Galen, I like Dave Aranda as well. I worry that Dave Aranda is. I don't worry. I've heard pushback about Dave Aranda as he's too cerebral for our fan base. First of all, whether you're cerebral or not has no bearing on whether or not the fan base is going to hate you. LSU fans aren't happy unless they're firing somebody. Let's not forget, on January 1st, 2003, LSU football lost in the Cotton Bowl, and we were told you're never going to get to that next level with a second-tier coach from the Big Ten. LSU went on to win the national championship that year, and we still, 18 years later, pine for Nick Saban. Like, we're never, ever, ever, ever happy. Was Saban too cerebral? Saban was a much more of a yeller than Dave Aranda, but still. Worried about Florida shopping for a head coach? I am absolutely not. I am not, and here's why. When you're Florida, you are you get that recruiting base of Florida football players, which is a constant feed, but you're also recruiting against Miami and Florida State, who will have their ebbs and flows. In Louisiana, you get to rule the roost. Now, in Florida, you do coach against the SEC East, but at the same time, the SEC East is, it's Georgia's right now. The only job open that worries me is USC, the allure of Los Angeles. Even though USC's campus is crap. Cerebral, winning solves all problems, just win. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And when LSU lost the Cotton Bowl of January 103, we wanted the coach fired. When LSU ran the table in 2011 and lost the national championship, we wanted the coach fired.
Zoom's net income rose more than 70%, but shares are down 8% in pre-market trading. Bobby Flay has reached an agreement to continue with Discovery's Food Network for another 3 years after previous negotiations stalled last month. The celebrity chef's 3-year contract is set to expire at the end of the year, but Variety reports Flay quietly restarted his talks with the network after failing to find an adequate home for his brand elsewhere. The outlet reports that the exclusive pact will keep him in the Discovery family through the middle of 2025. On Wall Street, futures modestly lower.
Excuse me.
SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, who's in excellent health, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. SelectQuote found Tanya, 40, who has type 2 diabetes, 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $32 a month.
Shop companies like Protective, Prudential, American General, and others to find you the company with the best rates. Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford. For your free quote, call 1-800-714-6633. That's 1-800-714-6633. Or go to selectquote.com. That's 1-800-714-6633. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Six 652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Whew. Getting ready for the CBS World News Roundup coming up in a couple minutes. Next hour is going to be a busy one. We're talking jobs in the area with Andrew Fitzgerald from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. We are talking with State Representative Mark Wright as well. We'll also have top stories and trending in the outside in. Thanks again to T-Bob Abear for hopping on board a little bit to talk about LSU versus Texas A&M. Really don't like the idea of not going to a bowl game if LSU should beat Texas A&M. Don't care what bowl. Don't care. There's 19 seniors who are never going to play again. Well, some of them might go on to the NFL, but their careers at LSU will be done, including Austin Deculus, who will have played more games than anybody at LSU. Anyway, that'll be available on demand at talk1073.com. If you missed it, also, if you took note of that, if you keep track of the weekly follow the coach schedule, you know it goes Monday press conference, Tuesday off the bench, Wednesday SEC coaches teleconference, and then the Ed Ogeron show, and then the Thursday post practice press conference before leading up before kickoff. So Tuesday's stop on off the bench now pushed back to Wednesday morning. So the final battle between those two, which has been fantastic in its time out there. Hey, before we get you to State Representative John Stefanski, who was on this show yesterday and then went to the press club yesterday as well, got to tell you about the folks over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Been telling you about the catering option, and I'll remind you one more time. If you're looking to do something for your clients this Christmas season that's a little bit outside the box, if you want to send your clients a gift that might actually be remembered, how about catering for Mooyah? Buy them lunch. Send lunch over to your client's office. Set up the burger bar. Set up the hot dog bar. Do things a little bit differently. Step outside the box and get remembered with your offering or your gift to your clients this year. Mooyah.com/catering, Mooyah.com/catering, or you can call 663-6632. Now, if you really want to mull this over, maybe swing by Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes for lunch today. Maybe grab yourself a double Diablo. Maybe grab yourself a well-done or a best-case scenario, or just build your own burger from their menu. You're not going to go wrong. The ingredients are top-notch. The service is impeccable. If I can interest you in a milkshake, look, I know we're only 2 days away from Thanksgiving. I know you're about to pack on the pounds, but maybe a pecan pie with butter pecan flavoring milkshake is in your future? Yeah. Look, We'll talk about dropping some pounds after Thanksgiving right now. Think about Mooyah burgers, fries, and shakes. Go all in. You're going to get the best ingredients and the best service. Blue Bonnet and Highland, Segan just north of Industrialplex for Mooyah burgers, fries, and shakes. So yesterday, I wanted to talk about an upcoming special session with State Representative John Stefanski. And I wanted to start the conversation there because I wanted to get to as many committee members as we can. There will be a special session, likely in February, to talk about redistricting. We have to see this every 10 years or so based off of census numbers. Representative Stefanski is one of the lawmakers on that committee that's going to look at redistricting in February. So he's talked to the press club yesterday. You heard some sound bites in our news at the bottom of the hour. There's a road show going on right now, traveling to 9 different districts throughout the state. I asked Representative Stefanski yesterday, these are the same 9 districts we've been tracking for COVID? Not exactly. They're kind of the same. The major metro areas throughout Louisiana. But nonetheless, the road show is nearing a close, talking about hearing what people think about drawing those new districts.
He also was charged with 3 counts of vehicular homicide and some other
Yeah, that's 7, 8, and 9, all right. All right, well, sounds like we got the wrong audio. A little crossing of the streams there. Anyway, it's okay. Don't sweat it. We roll right on. The road show wraps up, and then that's when they get to work. That's when they take all the data, from the census data to the public feedback data to everything that they have, and they wrap it all up into one. And they work on developing the best maps possible to serve Louisiana when it comes to different districts. Now, law requires the state redraws the districts for Congress this is after every census, right? Which means that every time that they do this, you're going to have different players involved, different members involved, different areas of the state in leadership positions. Stefanski's from Crowley, by the way. The governor's from Amite. This shouldn't play into it, but there's never going to be a day in Louisiana or any other state where this is done without human intervention as well. Governor John Bel Edwards has said he will veto anything that he deems to be unfair. On the Ask the Governor show last week, Governor Edwards said, we need to have constituents who elect their representatives, not representatives who choose their constituents. I'm paraphrasing that. I might have missed that quote by a word or two. But Representative Stefanski yesterday on this show echoed those sentiments. That's exactly what they're trying to do. That's exactly what goes into this. Now, there will be some level of, like I said, human intervention as well. You can't just go straight data across the board. There will be a little bit of politics in play. But also, and this was the part that I was really looking forward to hearing about, was when you look at the geographical borders in Louisiana versus the population borders in Louisiana, we have a difficult state to divvy up when it comes to political districts. When you look at where does a district end and the next one begins, we have way more, like, you're not going to cross Lake Pontchartrain to have spillover from a district. You're not even going to cross the Amite River to have spillover from a district. It makes voting too difficult. When you look at the number of bridges we have, the number of natural divisions we have, it's going to play out to where there will be, you have to make up for the data with something else. And that's where Stefanski comes in and the rest of the committee comes in as well. All right, we got to take a break for news. We're going to check the CBS World News Roundup. After that, we will get your local top stories and trending. And then we'll talk with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber next on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk.
Protect your retirement. The Presley Group time, 7 o'clock.
WBRB Baker Baton Rouge, 98.1 HD3. Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk.
Where did you get that audio from? You were playing it straight from here, or you downloaded it? Downloaded it. I refreshed the page and it was the same. That's why I didn't. I gotta step down the hall for 1 second. YouTube, hang on.
It's the same down there. I don't think their shit's updated.
Yeah. Well,
Talk 107.3. Okay. I'll have someone check on that. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you. Have a good day. Hey, Brian. A caller just said they're trying to line you to get more
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
Right now on I-12, there's an incident over to the inside shoulder westbound at Millerville. DOT now monitoring. Take a live look at the set. It's 11 minutes though due to the splits. Drive on Millerville straight. Not a whole lot of delay from the incident, but it could change if they work off the green. 7 from the split to LA1 overnight. Crews blocked off the lane around Essex as they're continuing work in the area, but that's complete. That location on 45 now. And coming in from Simpson to 5. Prairie on the Highland, you can tell the kiddos are off school. The volume's light out there. Let's take you outside and check on our camera here. This is the issue at Millerville. You can see DOT out there with a car. They've got their glasses on.
See an accident? Reported at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 eligible Michelin tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
All right. He fixed it. Who's coming from BRAC?
Andrew Fitzgerald.
Up there. 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven?
706, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you, Jake producing. Got a busy hour for you this hour. Going to talk with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber about jobs in the area. What are we looking at heading into the holiday season? Andrew Fitzgerald's going to join us in our next segment. Also this hour, we are going to talk with State Representative Mark Wright about transportation dollars. Infrastructure package is in the books. It should be on its way. How much does that affect the legislature? Now, this is a two-part question because you have infrastructure dollars, you have American Rescue Plan dollars. Those are outside of, well, they also fund the regular budget as well, but there's the dollars outside of the regular transportation budget. So will the new dollars coming in affect the way they handle other dollars? Do they have oversight over the new dollars? We're going to talk about all of it with State Representative Mark Wright, who heads up the Transportation Committee. Going to get you to top stories and trending in just a second. However, do have to tell you very quickly about the folks over at Matherne's Market. Might be a little late in the game to get in on any catering for Thanksgiving, but do you have holiday parties coming up? Do you have Christmas parties coming up? Exact same phone number gets you in on the catering for your Christmas party, 367-6074. 367-6074 from Matherne's Market. You'll find them on Nicholson in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. That is the corner of Nicholson and Skip Burtman Drive. That is right across the street from Tiger Stadium. If you go to Tiger Stadium, you're standing in the stadium parking lot, turn around. And when you turn around, actually what you'll see there is the LSU Foundation. Right behind that, though, is where you'll see Matherne's Market. Or maybe when you turn around, you'll see Fat Boy's Pizza. Right behind there is Matherne's Market. Now, if you're in between Fat Boy's Pizza and the LSU Foundation, that's where you'll see them. Boom, right? And it's just, trust me, when you go out there, it's super easy to find. And I know they're on campus, but they're not just for students. And this is not working the logistics of getting into the heart of campus. This is easy in and easy out. Oh, by the way, we had the folks on from JT Mellick last week to talk about getting in the whiskey game. I got word yesterday there are going to be a select few cases of the new JT Mellick whiskey making their way to Matherne's Market. Yes, it is confirmed. That tiny, tiny number of outlets that will get JT Mellick's first limited round of whiskey, Matherne's is in that number. Yes, I've already reserved my bottle. Sorry, not sorry. You'll find them on 3rd, downtown. You'll find them on Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. It's Matherne's Market. Time for top stories and trending. Let's roll.
Now, top stories and trending. 5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go. On Talk 107.3 FM. The most trusted name in news. Brought to you by Complete Collision Center. With locations in Zachary and Baton Rouge. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Choose CompleteCollision.com. I want to know absolutely everything that's happened up to now.
This is a crazy story. Baton Rouge police are investigating an unusual situation in 100 Oaks after a realtor locked himself inside the house he was showing to protect himself from people who wanted to see it. The realtor said he was showing the house on Rhododendron Drive in 100 Oaks when a woman produced a knife in the guest house out back. He managed to escape, and he approached the car. And as he approached the car she was in, a man got out. He went inside the house he was showing, locked the door. That's when he called 911. Police said in addition to the woman, there were 3 men that were there. When the individuals involved could not get in the house, they rummaged through his truck, stole some things from it. Baton Rouge police said the thieves got away in a white Nissan. Investigators are looking into whether or not they're connected to other crimes across the river. A 19-year-old was booked into jail yesterday after he allegedly uploaded videos showing children as young as 4 years old being forced to perform sex acts. The Louisiana Bureau of Investigation said Connor Rome was arrested after a months-long investigation dating all the way back to March. At the time, agents said they received a tip that Rome had uploaded videos depicting suspected child pornography via the Dropbox app. Investigators reviewed the uploads, found that more than 60 of those explicit videos showed young boys who appeared to be between the ages of 4 and 12. Agents were able to connect Rome and his Zachary address to the account that uploaded the videos. He was arrested on 50 counts of child pornography. The White House says today they have ordered 50 million barrels of oil released from the strategic reserve to bring down energy costs. in coordination with other countries, including China. The move is an effort to bring down rising gas prices. Gas prices nationwide are averaging about $3.40 a gallon. That is more than double their price a year ago. That is more than double their price a year ago. That is more than double their price a year ago, according to the American Automobile Association. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is an emergency stockpile to preserve access to oil in case of natural disasters, national security issues, and other events maintained by the Energy Department. A long-sought subdivision along Starring Lane was given the green light earlier this month by the Planning Commission after months of outstanding drainage issues. Silverside Cove, a 75-0-lot line, 22-acre project along Starring near Perkins, was approved during the November 15th meeting of the Planning Commission. It will not require approval from the Metro Council. According to Planning Commission documents for the November meeting, Silverside Cove, which sits entirely in the AE flood zone, had been deferred 4 times since July. Issues surrounding the proposal were apparently resolved ahead of the commission vote. Those issues included were improvements around Dawson Creek and a number of detention capabilities. A revised drainage impact study for Silverside Cove will be required once construction plans are submitted. A man was found shot to death early Monday morning at a business located about a block away from Airline Highway. BRPD said Lonnie Cashy, 35 years old, was found dead at the corner of Beaumont and Waco Avenue around 2:15 a.m. Monday. Cashy had been shot multiple times. Beaumont at Waco, this is a block west of Airline, about a block south of Choctaw, to put it in perspective. Police have yet to identify a possible suspect or motive in the shooting. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Attorneys make their final case to jurors in Ahmaud Arbery's death. Attorneys made a final push Monday to persuade the jury in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, with the prosecution saying that 3 white men chased him solely because he was a black man running down the street. Defense attorneys reportedly blaming Arbery for his own death. In closing arguments, a defense attorney for the man who fired the fatal gunshots said 25-year-old Arbery was killed as he violently resisted a legal effort to detain him to answer questions about burglaries in a neighborhood just outside of the port city of Brunswick, Georgia. Yeah. If you thought the Rittenhouse stuff was leaving the rails, just wait. That's top stories and trending. Quick break. When we come back, we talk to the Baton Rouge Area Chamber next. Okay, cool. I got it. Let me dial back some comments back to 658. Troy Villa, I'm ambivalent about a bowl game. Not sure I can withstand this putrid offense an extra week. Okay, so, Troy, I'm glad you posted that. Because don't watch it. Who cares? Let them go play. Like, there's nothing saying you have to watch. There's nothing forcing you to watch. Get up and walk away. My concern isn't for you or me as fans. My concern is for the players. My concern is for the guys who are going to go get their swag bag, are going to get one more chance to show off their talents before hitting the Senior Bowl. That's, yeah. Outside of that, the rest of us shouldn't have a vote in this. Colton says, my main point was being if you want Kojo to go out on Coach O to go on top without a win, why not let it be a winning season? Plus, think of the player. Yeah, Colton's on point. I get where you're at. But that being said, the administration probably doesn't care about that at all and would like to start a transition as soon as possible. Okay, my point is, and look, it's unheard of to have the coach stick around as a lame duck. Like, this situation's weird to begin with. So why not dive all in? If you need to go get a new coach to go out and start recruiting and whatnot, go get him. Let Coach O handle the guys that are already out there. $7:16, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Whew. Busy morning, on and off the air. We got a lot of ground still to cover, though. Let's talk jobs. We're 2 days away from Thanksgiving. We're about to enter the holiday season, which means we're about to put a button on this year. What are we looking like in Baton Rouge and the region? Joining us now to talk about that is the Senior Vice President of Business Intelligence at the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. He is Andrew Fitzgerald. Andrew, good morning. Welcome back to Talk 107.3. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
No, always glad to have you on. Always love the conversation. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to jobs because from the pandemic till now, we've been seeing numbers that, well, it's not the normal trends, not the normal patterns. So let's start with the basics. Where are we right now with unemployment?
So that's kind of part one of the interesting place we're in. Before the pandemic, we had about 16,000 people unemployed. Right now, we have 17,000 people unemployed, and at the height of the pandemic, it was 64,000 people. So from an unemployment standpoint, we're about back to normal. We're at 4.2% unemployment.
Okay. But
now, I guess the second part of that would be, but in terms of jobs, we're still about 20,000 jobs short of where we were. We're about 410,000 jobs before the pandemic. We're hovering around 390 right now. So we have fewer people unemployed than at the height of the pandemic, about the same amount as pre-pandemic, but way fewer people actually working as well.
Okay, let's talk about what the difference there is, because that's an important thing to note. When we hear unemployment numbers, that actually is just one category of people who are without jobs, correct?
Right. That's a category of people that are without jobs but actively looking for jobs.
Do we know how many people in the Baton Rouge area are without jobs and have given up the opportunity to look for jobs?
You know, that's where that 20,000 missing jobs number comes from. I estimate it's probably about that, maybe a little bit higher since the population grew in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think those people fall into three categories. Number one, some people retired, whether on time or early. They just said, I'm financially able to do this. Staying at home has been great. I'm retired. Number two, you have a lot of parents who ended up enjoying being with their kids throughout the day. And so there are a lot of parents that are staying home, being caretakers still. They didn't re-enter the workforce after the pandemic let up. And number three, you have some younger folks just sort of sitting out. You know, they didn't enjoy their job before. They may be in school. They may have gone back to school, and that's why they're out of the workforce. But there's a group that's saying, because of the stimulus, I'm able to sit out a little bit longer. I have some savings built up. You know, nationally, savings actually rose during the pandemic to a certain extent.
Okay, I want to break each of these categories down because each of these categories is going to play a different factor when it comes to getting back into the job market. So let's start with the retirees. Retirees haven't always been retirees. Retirees could be going in and getting part-time work somewhere, taking on a new career. You get restless in the house once you get back in the house.
I think that could be anything from somebody going into becoming a Walmart greeter or being a 1099 consultant for their engineering firm they used to work at. So, yeah, that could take a lot of different phases.
When you become, let's walk that 1099 consultant avenue, because we're in a position now where that would take on a level of entrepreneurship as well, which how does that factor into them, quote unquote, reentering the workforce? Because they could very well be working without the traditional numbers showing it.
Yes, and that's a thing too, where some of these jobs don't show up. Sole proprietorships, you're right, don't show up in these job numbers. So they may be a little higher than we think, because we also saw a spike in business permit applications in 2020. So people went from kind of a lull in 2019 to seeing over 20,000 business applications in the capital region.
Now, as far as the parent who likes staying home, first of all, God bless them. That I don't know if I could do that. That would get cabin fever very, very quickly. But secondly, that can't necessarily be looked at as a negative, can it?
Yeah, and that's a really important point. Is that this is something that there's kind of bipartisan support for this child tax credit, which these payments are enabling more and more parents to stay home. You have both kind of it's a very conservative, traditional idea. But also, somebody like Elizabeth Warren wrote a book called The Two-Income Trap, about how you shouldn't need two incomes to raise a family. So it kind of cuts across party lines, support for it, like you said.
And this is why I love it, because it's so baffling, and it will ruffle feathers on both sides of the aisle to get to a conclusion that we probably all should have gone after in the first place, and that is, I grew up with a two-income home, and it was absolutely vital to keep us afloat. My wife and I, we are in a 2-income home. Plus side hustles, it gets a lot more than that, but it's absolutely vital to stay afloat. Moving to a traditional, I say traditional because I hesitate to use that word. It hasn't been tradition for more than a generation now. But moving back to that ideal leave it to beaver 1-income home, is there a way to do that, but without all the propping up of government dollars?
I think you're going to see kind of some sort of a medium ground there, where at the end of the year, I believe, when the child tax credit expires, we're going to see whether that's renewed or not. And if it's not renewed, some people will just have no choice but to go back into the workforce. So you'll see some folks that maybe had a part-time job in the service industry are going to have to go back to doing that. But for some folks, they might just make quality of life adjustments, and so the lack of income just doesn't matter. They cut corners somewhere else.
And then watch for the 1099s and sole proprietorships to pop up there for somebody who's working 10 to 15 hours a week, kind of off the books, if you will. Yeah, that's going to pop up. That's going to rear its ugly head as well. Well, not ugly head. It's a good thing. It's such a transition. It's hard for us to grasp because it's not how we've calculated the data in the recent years. So it shows up in the wrong way. Now, the students who have said, I didn't really like my job before, I'm going to concentrate on my education now. This is one where I think we could see a turning of the corner somewhere around the middle of next year, especially if they're going through some kind of tech school or trade school. Have we gotten any numbers as to where the students are returning to get further education or continued education?
We're still waiting to get numbers at the metro level, but I can say kind of anecdotally that working with the system of career and technical colleges here, they've done a really good job putting together programs for high demand, high wage sort of industries, whether it be tech or healthcare or logistics, just to ensure that it's not only people getting skills, it's getting skills that we need here from the business community standpoint for the workforce pipeline. So I think you're right that we're going to see a point sometime next year where people are finishing up their curriculum, and whether it's nursing, whether it's truck driving, whether it's coding, a lot more people entering those fields from maybe a service industry job before.
Yeah, this is something we've talked about throughout the pandemic, and there was going to be a natural hesitation, first of all, for jumping off the cliff. Secondly, for feeling comfortable in a classroom environment when it comes to the pandemic. And then third, you're going to have that window where they're actually in school. I feel like we're in that window right now.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that people maybe looking at the tech jobs or stuff you could do training online during the pandemic, they may be able to re-enter a lot earlier because there weren't those fears about COVID spread if you're on your computer on the couch doing a coding course. So it's the truck drivers and the skilled craft workers, like you said, where it may be a little bit more lag time. Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to learn welding via Zoom.
That's right.
So in the meanwhile, how do we go about getting all these jobs filled? I mean, you said there's still more than 20,000 jobs available in the market right now. What do we do to get the known jobs occupied?
You know, I think that a lot of the open jobs are skills mismatch. Like I'm saying truck drivers for the third time in about a minute. And there's a reason, because there are 2,500 openings for that, and there have been for months. And it's, potentially a $60,000, $70,000 a year job. So I think what you need to do is companies need to get creative and work with these higher ed and training institutions so you can kind of recruit people and maybe even have on-the-job training, or have an educational pipeline where you're working with an LCTCS school and you're directly hiring right out of the school as people are graduating. So there's a fight for labor right now. It's a good time to be seeking a job. So that will probably change eventually as these students are running out of savings and they're just forced to go back to work. But I think that right now it's definitely an employee time more than employer time.
When it comes, yes, it is, which is going to mean higher wages, and there's no other way around that. It's going to mean higher wages, which is good for the overall economy as well, because higher wages will mean more expendable income.
That's right.
Now, what's next in the market when it comes to what's in demand right now? Yes, there's trucking right now, but I know we have a number of projects that BRAC has worked on directly that are going to lead towards more construction in the near future. Should we be looking at that as what's next in 2022?
Yeah, if you dig down to specific industries, construction is still the hardest hit, with over 10% of the jobs still gone from pre-pandemic, about 13% actually. That's 6,000 jobs that aren't here in our highest growth sector over the last 5 years. And what we've seen is kind of a commitment for a lot of these projects announced in 2019 and early 2020. They wanted to check out the market, see where things are going. But since the economy's booming in some ways, most of them are back on. So it's just a wait to make sure the supply chain gets to a point where all the raw materials you need are here at an affordable price. If you think about it, with tariffs and inflation, these projects that were thought to be $1 billion are all of a sudden $1.2 billion to create, and that changes the model of the companies a little bit. So the hesitancy makes sense, but it seems like all systems are a go, and it's an issue of when, not if, the construction market comes surging back.
Yeah, and we've got to see supply increase on that as well. I mean, yes, supply side costs or construction costs, materials costs all have to come down. But I've talked to so many different skilled laborers, whether you're talking about electricians or plumbers or whatever the case might be in construction, that are just turning away jobs left and right because, quote, it's not worth my time. Like, they're making money at a ridiculous premium right now, and good on them, absolutely good on them. But for those that need the work done, it's that much harder to afford.
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually trying to remodel my house right now. It is much different than it would have been 2 years ago. That's for
Then
sure.
I'm preaching to the choir. Firsthand. We have a couple minutes. Can we talk about holiday retail as well and what Baton Rouge is expecting?
Definitely.
All right, what is Baton Rouge expecting? Let's start with the temporary jobs market and then go to overall revenue.
So yeah, we always see a little bit of a spike in employment at the end of the year for seasonal sales jobs, whether it's sales for retail, whether it is holiday parties, meaning the food service industry needs to be more staffed up. We intend to see that, or we expect to see that sort of spike again this year. We won't really know until February when the December numbers are released, but we do expect to see that same spike. And I'd say also one more thing on that is that in terms of retail, because the supply chain issues are so bad, people might be hesitant to order online. People think even if they order online right now, it may not come in before Christmas.
Right.
So in-person retail has a chance to really surge this year because people want to hold that item in their hand when they purchase it. So they believe it will be under the Christmas tree. So I think that local retailers, especially small businesses, have a chance to really surge more this year than they have in recent years while electronic sales have kind of picked up.
There is a legitimate fear that Santa's going to be leaving envelopes with printouts of receipts underneath trees this year. And yes, physically, tangibly holding items is going to be a big, big thing when it comes to this Christmas. And that's going to be nothing but a bonus for our local retailers.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
He is Andrew Fitzgerald. He is the SVP of Business Intelligence. Dude, we always brag. First of all, great to meet you the other day. That was fantastic, finally meeting you in person.
It was a great event.
Yes, it was. And secondly, we always appreciate the information. We always appreciate the time.
Happy to help out.
Always. Thank you so much. He is Andrew Fitzgerald from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. So, yeah, interesting turn of events, though. With online supply chain issues being what they are, physically go out, see a local retailer, do your shopping on Small Business Saturday. Nothing against the big box retailers. But if you can get something locally on Saturday for Santa to physically put under the tree, by all means, dive in, get it done. You'll help out a local retailer. You will help retain a local job. You'll be stirring the local economy. And, of course, the kids will be happy on Christmas morning. All right, we got to shift from there to transportation. Going to take a quick break for news. When we come back from news, Mark Wright heads up the Transportation Committee in the House. He's going to join us next to talk about what the dollars are going to do in the very near future. That's next on Talk 107.3. Andrew's fantastic. That was awesome. He is the SVP of Business Intelligence, which I always make the joke. If you're a sports fan, if you ever watch SportsCenter, you know that Scott Van Pelt is referred to as SVP. It's like, why does Senior Vice President and Scott Van Pelt have to have the same acronym? It's like, he's the SVP of Business Intelligence. Well, he's good, but is he really the Scott Van Pelt of Business Intelligence? With Andrew, he actually is, though. So, Byron says Silverside Cove sounds like a nudist resort for the elderly. It totally does.
believes the COVID-19 vaccine should be added to the list of vaccines required for students to attend school once it receives full FDA approval for children. Republican House Speaker Clay Schecksteiner reportedly texted lawmakers that this is a line in the sand that will not be crossed. Governor Edwards and the mayor of Lake Charles announced the creation of an $11 million housing program to help residents recover from the 2020 hurricane and flooding in May.
The housing situation in Lake Charles is absolutely dire. Absolutely dire over a year post-Laura.
Mayor Nick Hunter says the $11 million is in addition to the $595 billion in community development block grant funding from HUD.
Hotline.
Had a commensurate and equitable response from the
Hey, Mark, it's Brian. We're in our news break right now. Coming your way in about 3 minutes, okay?
Says while they're grateful for the
So
$11
we're
million,
going to start with the infrastructure dollars. Like, did those even cross y'all's desk? Or did they go straight to DOTD?
I'm Brooke Thorington.
State lawmakers plan to hold a 3-week special session in February on redistricting. Speaking to the Baton Rouge Press Club, Crowley Representative Johnson
Okay.
says lawmakers are close to completing a
Okay.
statewide road
All right, yeah, we're just going to walk through all of it step by step and how the transportation committee can, affect where it goes and whatnot. So, all right, hang tight. Coming your way in a second. Thanks.
Stefanski says he's hearing from lawmakers who are interested in just tweaking the current 6 House districts. State police continues to investigate Sunday night's fatal police shooting in Metairie. Trooper Kate Stiegel says officers encountered an armed man who refused to comply with orders to drop his weapon and whipped around, pointed it at the officer. The subject's identity has not been released. Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
Michael Strahan is going to fly up in a Blue Origin flight. Michael Strahan is going to space. Former New York Giant, now one of the anchors of Good Morning America. I'm putting this on the table for Byron to respond. Byron, Michael Strahan, space, go. Oh, he's pretty awesome.
Attorney Peyton Murphy has been fighting insurance companies for over 28 years and recently won an $18.9 million verdict for a crash victim. Trust his experience. Offices in Baton Rouge. Results may vary.
Sometimes big renovation projects seem intimidating, but with One Bath Solutions, it's a breeze. From tub to shower for ease of accessibility, or just because you never use your tub, and get everything done in one place. One Bath Solutions. Visit onebathsolutions.com for a free quote.
Portable heaters are the second leading cause of house fires in the U.S., so keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet away from your heater and never sleep with a portable heater. Another fire safety tip from Talk 107.3 and Baton Rouge General's Regional Burn Center.
When you've been in the industry for over 20 years, you learn a few things. For one thing, you learn your product inside and out. But you also learn how to ask the right questions and give satisfying answers. Jim's Firearms.
Total Wine, oh Total Wine, how wondrous our selection.
How long do I have? Do I have a minute? 46 plus weather.
Come explore Total Wine and More. Now open in Baton Rouge at the Sagan Village Shopping Center. Drink responsibly, 21.
Welcome back to the quickest podcast ever, brought to you by Kohl's. Today's topic, Black Friday, the best day of the year. And Kohl's always has the best deals. I'm for sure getting a coffee maker for my sister and a new blender for me. A little self-gifting, huh? Yep. I saw some super soft bedding, too. My mom will love it. Ooh, sounds cozy.
738. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Let's talk about them roads. Whoo, if you're coming in on I-10 westbound, you see construction going on right now in the very near future in Baton Rouge. You're going to see a lot more construction when it comes to the College Drive flyover. We've been promised another Mississippi River bridge for years now, so much so that most of us are cynical. But we're not the only ones. There are promises made around the state. There are needs around the state. There's a $14 billion backlog around the state. Well, the infrastructure package that went through Congress a couple weeks ago, signed off on the president a week ago Monday, is going to bring some dollars to Louisiana. American Rescue Plan brought some dollars to Louisiana, and there's a normal budget as well. How does all that play out in real life? Joining us now to talk about this is the man who heads up the Transportation Committee in the House. He is Mark Wright, State Representative Mark Wright from Covington. Good morning, Mark. Welcome back to Talk 107.3.
Hey, good morning, Brian. Appreciate you having me. A great Thanksgiving week here.
I always love having you on. Always love talking to my fellow Covingtonians, as it were. Just feel like I'm back home a little bit. And happy Thanksgiving week to you as well.
Yeah, same to you. Look, I don't want to hijack your interview, but, we got to remember St. Paul's is playing Catholic in Baton Rouge Friday, so I'm going to try to make it. I don't know about you, but we'll be there.
Yeah, I'm debating going up in the attic and looking for the Letterman's jacket. I need to rep the blue and gold over in Memorial Stadium Friday night and then just lick my wounds afterwards because, Mark, look, I love my Wolves to the core, but it ain't going to be pretty.
That's what I'm hearing, but I'll be there too. What the heck?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kenny Sears was coaching defense when I was in high school, and they're still a defensive-minded program to this day. So, let's talk about that I-12 to get from Covington up to Memorial Stadium. Moving that out to 3 lanes is one of the many projects on tap, or I should say on the wish list for transportation in the state. So, infrastructure dollars make their way into DOTD's budget. In order for them to get there, they got to go through your committee and the state legislature. So what's this going to look like? How's this going to play out?
Well, look, I mean, the money that's coming down from this infrastructure bill is essentially the equivalent of the normal 5 years worth of dollars that come from the Fed, and then it's doubled. And then on top of that, as I understand it, there's going to be a lot of competitive projects where the state can, kind of propose certain projects, and it could get awarded by the Fed. And then the final part will be some of this more social-related type of infrastructure projects, the kind that a lot of us have kind of argued isn't really infrastructure, but that there's sort of like 3 pots of money for this, as I understand it. And so, look, we have a highway priority program that goes through the joint committee, goes through the legislature, if you will. So we will have some say, if we haven't already. I mean, these projects, much of these are on the books already. Planning's involved, and it's just a question of putting the money to it. And then, I'm sure there'll be some opportunities to influence specific projects. Not unlike what we did this last legislative session with, my colleague Tanner McGee's bill that basically, where Rick Ward got involved on the Senate side, and we put some extra money towards some of the bigger projects around the state.
What are some of the bigger projects around the state? Because I know here in Baton Rouge we have our idea of what absolutely needs to happen. But it's easy to lose sight if you're in any one particular part of the state. It's easy to lose sight of what the rest of the state needs. So, what are some of the bigger projects elsewhere?
Yeah. So look, the bridge in Baton Rouge over the Mississippi River is huge.
Yep.
It's the biggest choke point I think in the state. Certainly the bridge over the Calcasieu in Lake Charles is probably number 2, if not number 1, just from age and such. And then, you start looking at the Florida parishes, I-12. I mean, the growth has been unbelievable. I mean, that's from Baton Rouge on over to the Mississippi state line. I think I-49, I mean, good grief. You talked about, being a letterman at St. Paul's. I remember being in my 20s working a political campaign over there, and people were talking about, making I-49 an interstate highway. It just, there's a lot of work there too. And then certainly, my colleagues in the north part of the state, always talking about bridges and such, that have just dilapidated. I mean, Secretary Wilson talks about that a lot as well. So, there's a lot to go around. There's no doubt about it.
Is there a definitive metric that says, like, you have to meet these requirements in order to reach number 1 priority status? Is there something that says, like the bridge over the Calcasieu, yes, it's aging, but you've got a loop in Lake Charles, whereas the bridge in Baton Rouge, you don't have that many other options. Is there something that and oh, by the way, bridges cost more than regular roads too. Is there something that is, I don't want to say etched in stone, but some kind of program, some kind of Moneyball aspect to this, where we make sure we get the most out of every dollar?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, DOTD has its way of sort of objectively measuring projects. I mean, it has some built-in subjectivity. There's no doubt about it. But they do rank programs. That's what goes through the committee. We make decisions based on that. But then again, you end up coming up I know Congressman Graves did a commercial over it. You end up seeing something like, that bridge near St. Francisville, and it's just hard to see how that was, high on the list of projects that need to be done across the state. So there's room to kind of bump stuff up, put things in that, maybe aren't as high priority, but they do, provide an objective measurement. But like I said, everything related to it does have some subjectivity. And then some of it has to do with dollars and timing. The DOTD, Secretary Wilson, I think it's usually towards the end of the summer, they get an opportunity to compete for money that wasn't used in the last year by other states. And I think Secretary Wilson and his staff have been pretty good about going after those dollars to do things. I mean, I know over in Covington, for example, the I-12, the 3-lane, part of the work that's being done now came about because we were able to go get some of those dollars that were left over by other states. So it's a little bit of everything, honestly.
Okay. Well, I know the 3-laning going on right now, which is such a nightmare around the Covington Mandeville exit, all the way up to if you're heading past there to Abita, or on beyond. But 12, you talk about the growth in St. Tammany Parish has got to skyrocket to the top of the priority list. But at the same time, though, you look at things that are going to be a national priority. You talked about 49, but I think you were talking about it on the north end. Connecting 49 from New Orleans up to Lafayette is a priority for hurricane evacuation. Elevating Highway 1 is a priority for, windstorms come through as well. How do you translate these? And I'm actually shifting the conversation to the competitive dollars that are on the way. How do you translate these to kick things up the line to make the rest of the nation aware of the level of need that we have in Louisiana?
Yeah, look, no, that's a difficult challenge. I mean, there's a lot of projects in Louisiana that have a broader focus. I mean, unfortunately, what just happened with Hurricane Ida helps translate some of that focus. I mean, 2 years ago when we saw some of the things that went down in southwest Louisiana, I mean, I think President Trump, if I recall, he came down and spoke and, talked about promising to rebuild the Calcasieu River Bridge. So, I know our delegation works in a variety of ways. There's some parts of Louisiana that have an effect, whether it be oil and gas or commercial navigation on the river and the intercoastal, that have a outsized effect on the rest of the country and our commerce. So they work hard to do that, but it's not easy. I mean, look, we're 4 million people in a state of 300 million people of a nation. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, you're just a small portion. There's no doubt it's a challenge.
Right, and the political winds are not necessarily blowing in the same direction as Louisiana's political recent traditions would as well. Back up to the overall infrastructure package. I couldn't help but notice there's a huge push for charging stations for electric vehicles. That isn't something that I think we see, really anywhere in Louisiana outside of a few private, establishments. Is there any push within the state legislature and the transportation committee to make charging stations a thing on a regular basis or with any kind of frequency in this state?
No, I have not heard a lot of people talk about that.
Fair enough.
It's interesting you say that. I went over to Orlando this weekend, stopped off in one of those rest areas that they have on the toll road, and I look over and there's 15 Tesla charging stations for cars to use. And there was no cars there for what it's worth. But, I mean, I think in other states it's probably a little higher priority. Maybe that's based on income. People can afford Teslas a little more in other states. I'm not so sure. But, no, I don't think it's there. Obviously, though, look, if the money's there to build the project, Whether you got a demand for it or not, I'm sure we'll take advantage of it for the potential down the road. But no, I haven't heard that. I mean, it's more about roads and bridges for right now, and then any sort of port priorities as well. I mean, let's face it, that's a big part of our economy, and you got to update your infrastructure. So that's an area I know I want to focus on. Make sure our ports, we could put money towards those, because it's like building assets for the future, right? I mean, it's like a company investing in equipment or other assets so that they can, grow in the future.
It's jobs, it's commerce, it's livelihood, and it's very, very applicable as well. Got about 60 seconds left with State Representative Mark Wright. He heads up Transportation Committee in the House. Mark, from appropriation to construction, what kind of timeline should we expect for these dollars?
Oh, great question. I would say 3 to 5 years at best. Like that. At the minimum, let's say that. It could take longer. I mean, we just broke ground on a highway project that was part of the TIME program. Talking about back in the 80s and 90s. So some of these things get kicked to the side and don't get the emphasis needed. I think some of the bigger projects are really going to be pushed forward as much as possible. All of us hear the problems that people have on the highways, so you want to, have as much maximum impact as possible.
He is State Representative Mark Wright. I'll hit you up on Friday if I'm able to make it out to Memorial Stadium. If not, I think a lot of folks will be drowning their sorrows at the Boston Street Pub afterwards, after the trip back home.
You're right, brother. All right. Yeah.
We'll talk to you soon.
Have
Thanks,
a good
Mark.
Week. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Mark. We'll talk to you soon. Oh, gonna go see Pudge. Gonna go see Pudge at the Boston Street Pub. I'll be shocked. I say this with love. I'll be shocked if that guy's still alive. His name. I don't know his name. His name was Pudge. Pudge owned the pub. Well, that's what everybody called him. Yeah. I got mentions of Pudge, and we didn't get to Uncle Squeak. Sorry, I'm like a one-man show over it. It's like a... Yes, I turned 18 the November before the drinking age turned 21. And nobody was grandfathered in. I got to legally drink for a month and a half. Well, here's the thing, though. It was Covington, so nobody gave a shit. We just go to the Boston Street Pub. My dad was across the street at a bar called Toogie's, which is now part of the Southern Hotel. Toogie's held the distinct honor of being the only bar located inside of a courthouse in America.
What?
Oh, bro, you don't even know what... nothing. You had the court, you had Toogie's was inside the courthouse, and then outside you had the hanging tree.
So if you got charged with underage drinking, you can get your sentence in the same building you got convicted?
Pretty well. The kids didn't hang out in Toogie's. The old man, my dad, hung out in Toogie's. Yeah, there were the number of Friday or Saturday nights where I would be on one side of Boston Street and he's literally on the other side of Boston Street, and like, it was, yeah. The amount of shit I got away with.
Those generation of parents have done everything they can to make sure we don't get to experience the same fun.
Yeah, not on me, man.
Not on you. Just everybody. BRPT.
Gotcha. Well, they sponsored the segment anyway, so to speak. Yeah, and then illegally drink a month and a half later. Yeah. Yep.
Did you know that law was about to be passed, or did it just happen?
Yeah, we all knew the law was coming. And interestingly enough, I've been waiting. You know what? I need to use this when talking about vaccine mandates. Because every day we hear the federal government has no right to take away funding if we don't have a vaccine mandate. No. Let's rewind the clock back to January 1, 1995, the legal drinking age went to from 18 to 21. The reason for that was federal funding for roads was going to be taken away if we kept an 18-year-old drinking age. We were going to lose a crap ton of federal dollars. The federal government strong-armed the state government into raising the drinking age. Don't think for a second that can't apply to vaccine mandates as well. I was thinking about that the other night. Like, why is that not a topic of conversation? What can if the federal government wants to strong arm states into having vaccine mandates, what can they actually do? Well, that's why our drinking age went up. I forgot all about that.
Imagine getting $50,000 for just like getting a bunch of balls on.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Is that from a game show or something? Okay.
A millisecond to spare. It's quite gripping.
$7.55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Thanks again to State Representative Mark Wright for talking transportation dollars. Did you hear the hesitation in his voice when I said how long from appropriation to construction? 3 to 5 years at least on a good day. And it took everything in his power not to use the word boondoggle when talking about charging stations. How about it? Yeah, I'll put words in his mouth. That's fine. I appreciate his time. If you missed it, it's on demand at talk1073.com, or at least it will be after the show is over with. We've got a busy next hour as well. We're going to talk safety with Paul Viollis at 8:15 in connection with that Wisconsin Christmas parade, the Waukesha Christmas parade, and the Rittenhouse verdict, and how does that translate to an Ahmaud Arbery verdict as well. That's at 8:15. And then cool stuff coming up at 8:40. Sergeant Adams from the U.S. Army, part of the crew that's going to be literally carrying the ball, the football, for the Bayou Classic. It goes from Southern University down Airline Highway to the Superdome. They physically run the ball there from point A to point B. Kind of a cool thing. We are going to have him on at 8:40 to talk about that, what they're doing, and why we should be dialed in on it. Going to be a cold morning for them to do that tomorrow morning as well. We've got the Outside In coming your way in just a minute. Outside In every day is brought to you by the folks over at Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. Why? Because that's where you'll find them. You'll find them in Ascension, you'll find them in Livingston, and you will find them right here in East Baton Rouge Parish. And you will have found them longer than any other physical therapy outfit around. They've been around for more than 60 years. They know how to sit you down, get to the root of your physical mobility limitations, find out your comfort level with physical therapy, how to get you from point A to point B back towards being your best you. Give them a call for a complimentary screening. And you might be thinking, I don't have any kind of major injury. No. That's not what we're talking about here. I mean, if you do, you know to call them. But if you have those minor injuries, that lower back pain that you just deal with, 917-9185, 917-9185, or visit them online at brptlake.com. Get back to being your best you at brptlake.com. Time for the Outside In. Let's go.
It's time to step outside of East Baton Rouge and get inside our surrounding parishes. It's about time for me to be hitting the old dusty trail. Really explore space this time. I mean, really. Yeah. Explore the space. The Outside In, presented by BRPT Lake, with 6 locations and extended hours to fit your needs. BRPT Lake has got you covered. Schedule online now at brptlake.com.
too long.
is coming your way now.
Get out of this town, man. Go where? Where are we gonna go?
We're going to start off with a look at the state as a whole when it comes to the murder rate. You know, we talk about it a lot in Baton Rouge, but what about other metropolitan areas in Louisiana? Well, would it shock you to learn that our state has 5 cities ranking in the FBI's top 20 for their homicide rate last year? New Orleans ranks the highest at number 4. Baton Rouge clocks in at 9th. These two have been well documented, but we're not done yet. Numbers 15, 16, and 17 on the charts are Alexandria, Monroe, and Shreveport, respectively. By the way, for reference, the FBI is ranking their numbers on murders per 100,000 restaurants. How about murders per 100,000 residents? Again, these are 2020 numbers. Over to West Baton Rouge Parish, a 4-mile-long traffic jam was caused by a trailer full of startled racehorses after a mishap with the animal's trainer Monday. Authorities said the trailer became detached from the vehicle, towing it, and wobbled around the interstate until it came to a stop near the top of the I-10 Mississippi River Bridge around 3:30 yesterday afternoon. The horses were not hurt, but were so startled they were not cooperating with handlers trying to move them into another trailer. Things opened back up a couple of hours later. In Lafayette, Governor John Bel Edwards cut the ribbon on an interstate widening project yesterday. $124 million project began in May of 2017, was completed in October of this year. The project was funded with the help of the Fast Lane grant. It widens the interstate from I-49 out to Breaux Bridge. That is the outside in. Quick break for news, then we're back at it next.
Protect your retirement. Visit safemoneyplan.net. It's 8 o'clock.
WBRB, Baton Rouge, 98.1 HD3, Talk 107.3 FM.
No.
Given the amount that our country uses daily, you think that should transmit out of the show.
A lot of it is. It's they make it sound like it's a finite resource. It is not a finite resource, but it can be outrun. I'm surprised we haven't figured out a way to create it. Like, why is synthetic not a thing? But I mean, if it's made over years and years and years and years, it's a fossil fuel. New fossils are created every day. Every time something dies, it's on its way to becoming a fossil. It's just a very, very, very slow process. I got to run across the hall real quick. I'll be right back. Alrighty then. Alrighty then. Ace Ventura. Yep. I was actually, speaking of Jim Carrey, I was actually going to make a Jim Carrey reference with Mark and then forgot about it. The transportation committee right now has got to be feeling like Harry and Lloyd when they finally busted open the briefcase. But I didn't want to call Mark Wright Dumb and Dumber, so that's why I laid off. I didn't forget about it, I just laid off of it. Yeah, you're also supposed to be out of news by now.
Now, your WBRZ traffic updates from Ashley Fouché.
On the bridge, you have backups, and some might be in your eyes if you're traveling eastbound to Glasgow and College, but no crashes. 23 minutes deep in the split that just passed behind there. A real slow pocket around Oak Field this morning, so if you're passing through the area, caution. I'm Linda.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
Report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 eligible Michelin tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Get YouTube open back up. So don't let it go. .806. .806. Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 3 of mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Jake producing. Got a busy hour for you this hour. By the way, thanks again to both Andrew Fitzgerald from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. Fascinating stuff. Really, a lot of really good information from Andrew about the Baton Rouge jobs market right now. It should be available soon at talk1073.com if by the end of the show at the very least. And then State Representative Mark Wright talking transportation dollars as well. This hour, in our next segment, we're going to talk about security when it comes to public spaces. We had the Rittenhouse verdict. What have we seen play out in Kenosha? We had, interestingly enough, also in Wisconsin, we had a Christmas parade that was just run over by a guy who was on the run, apparently. 5 people killed. Look, we're a parading people down here. We're going to talk with the author of Safeguarding America, Paul Viollis, is going to join us in our next segment and break that down. The Rittenhouse stuff, I really want to talk about more in terms of what a potential verdict in the Ahmaud Arbery case would mean from a public safety standpoint. That's all coming up in our next segment. Also, we're going to talk with Sergeant Adams from the U.S. Army about him and his crew literally running the football from Southern University down to the Superdome as we prep for the Bayou Classic, which comes back home to the Superdome after having to take a year off last year to head up north for an outdoor venue with the COVIDs and whatnot for Southern to take on Grambling. That's all still to come. Right now, though, every day at this time, Jake takes us back in time for this day in history.
Good morning, everybody. Starting things off in 1889, we had the debut of the first ever jukebox. It was in San Francisco.
It's 1889.
1889. Still unbelievable to me. I feel like that tech came out the next century.
Right.
Shortly before, but still.
Okay, I've got to ask the follow.
up.
I've got to ask the follow-up. What was the first song played on the jukebox?
Probably something by Beethoven. Probably.
I know that didn't come out until the 60s or 50s, whatever.
Came out in the 50s?
I don't know. It was a Family Guy reference either way.
Oh, no, I knew it was Family Guy, but I didn't think it came out in, like, the 50s.
Bad, that word.
1942, Chinese steward Poon Lim begins...
What?
What?
Okay.
That's his name, sir. Hey, take it easy. He begins 133 days adrift after British ship SS Ben Lomond torpedoed by German U-boat, and he is the sole survivor. This dude survived 133 days in the ocean. You're disrespecting this man's name. Come on, man.
I can't.
What are you doing, Brian?
I'm not. I can't even.
Come on. Let's just move on. Congratulations.
Yes, he will be referred to as this dude from now on.
1963, the debut of Doctor Who, the long-running British sci-fi series. I don't know. It's a doctor, apparently.
Don't tell Laura Ingram. Come on, she did the whole Who's on First thing yesterday with the show You.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, today's the anniversary of Doctor Who. Doctor Who?
Who?
Doctor Who?
Not me.
No.
I didn't do that.
Didn't do anything on measles?
That was not me.
No, it was who? I don't know. Third base.
This one's a little for kind of for myself. 1970, George Harrison releases My Sweet Lord, single in the U.S. Very good song.
Excellent.
1991, Freddie Mercury, at the age of 45, confirms he has AIDS the day before he dies.
Wow.
So, kind of spoiler for tomorrow, but, I mean, that's this day in history for you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it was also on this day in 1991, exact same day.
What happened?
Desmond Howard did the Heisman pose.
Ah.
Yeah.
I was wondering why you're doing the pose.
Yeah,
It's
no.
like,
Well,
I was talking about Freddie Mercury. I mean,
that was really insensitive.
Yeah.
No, when you said 1991, I thought it was going to be Desmond Howard returns a
fair.
punt against rival Ohio State for a touchdown, celebrating with his Heisman pose en route to number 3 Michigan's biggest win over the Buckeyes in almost 50 years. The Wolverines won that game 31-3. And yes, Desmond Howard was your Heisman Trophy winner.
Very nice. 1993, at 21 years old, Shaquille O'Neal put up 24 points, 28 rebounds, and 15 blocks for the Orlando Magic. He beat the Nets that night.
Nice.
Insane stat line. 2001, FC Barcelona fans throw a pig's head at Luis Figo, a former player. He left for fierce rivals Real Madrid for free 2 years prior. They threw a pig's head at him.
You know, normally I dump all over your soccer stories, but if there's pigs involved,
oh, dude,
you get a pass.
I love American sports. I love American sports stadiums. I love the crowds. Holy cow, the stuff that I hear at soccer games across the world.
Well, you've just set the bar. It's got to include a pig's head or worse from now on.
I could go worse, but I probably can't say a lot of that on air. But that'll happen on another day in history.
You said the guy who was floating around for 100 days.
This day in history. 2004, World of Warcraft, the multiplayer online role-playing video game released, world's most subscribed game. It came out today. You've either played it, or your kids played it, or you know somebody who played it too much.
Okay.
I mean, everyone's heard of World of Warcraft, and if you haven't, then...
Yeah, heard of it.
What are you doing? That's all the events I have. Let's get right down to the birthdays. I have 3, but holy cow, these are heavy hitters if you were, alive and well.
You don't have the same 3 I do then.
If you were back in... well, let's just get right into them. First up, we have Miley Cyrus herself.
Okay, yes.
29.
Miley Cyrus. Got her.
You got Jersey Shore starlet herself, Snooki. 34 years old.
Snooki is on my list. It's interesting you would refer to Snooki as a heavy hitter. Heavy drinker, for sure.
For
Maybe
sure.
back in the day.
For sure. And the last one I have is big old Papa John himself. Turned 60.
Papa
What?
John?
Yeah.
Like the pizza guy?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Like the father of John.
Okay. Very cool.
That's not what that means.
Well, it's also Robin Roberts' birthday. Shout out to a former Southeastern Lion and anchor for Good Morning America. It's also former Saint Scott Shanley's birthday.
Ooh.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
And we've got 2 LSU Tigers on the list today.
Let's hear it.
That would be Ricky Jean Francois and Spencer Ware.
Where?
Who?
What?
Third base.
No deaths to mention. Let's get right down to the holidays. I've got 3 to mention. First up, eat a cranberry day.
Nope.
Why not?
Nope. Because yesterday was like something like cranberry jelly day or something.
It definitely was.
The cranberry industry, Big Cranberry, as it were. The folks over in Big Cranberry are trying to cram cranberries down our throat, and I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Ocean Spray.
I'm glad you're taking a stance on something that really matters.
It does. Enough with the cranberries.
All right, well, you'll be happy to know that that's where the cranberries end for probably this year. If not, then
I guarantee you they're going to pop back up tomorrow.
If they come back, bro, we gotta wage wars.
It's tomorrow's going to be National Serve Your Cranberry Sauce Out of the Can Day.
Dude.
To where it just looks like that gelatinous.
And then we're just going to find out that November is cranberry month.
It is. I'm telling you.
National Cashew Day.
Okay.
And then lastly, I could use one of these right now. National Espresso Day.
It is National Espresso Day.
Mm-hmm. That is this day in history.
It's important to pronounce it soprano style espresso, even though there's no X in the word.
There is not.
Yeah. All right, we're due up for a break. When we come back. The author of Safeguarding America, Paul Viollis. We've been turning to him when we have, public safety issues, law enforcement issues. Paul joins us next on Talk 107.3. Is that hotter than it was in the last, or is that spot just runs hot? Because it's coming out of my headphones like a beast. Here, let me give you this guy's cell number. Go ahead.
Cool. Has been fighting insurance companies for over 28 years and recently won an $18.9 million.
Hi, Paul. This is Jake Martin, producer of Morning's Brian Haldane, Talk 107.3. How are you?
Offices in Baton Rouge. Results may
Doing
vary.
well, thanks. Are you ready for us? Perfect. Yes, yeah, audio sounds good on your end. Yeah. We'll be live in a little over a minute. We'll have you on.
There is no more waiting.
Prime time is your time to
To
watch
the,
tonight
I'm sorry?
on WBRC Plus.
Watch WBRZ Plus on
Oh, yeah. 100%. Thank you.
Louisiana
Please
Body
hold me to
Bistro
get
is cooking with love. Delicious Cajun goodness for lunch.
He's ready. He wants me to email him a link to the interview.
We'll do.
749-633.
After it's posted. Yeah. Yeah. I'll take care of it.
On the bridge, you have backups, and the sun might be in your eyes if you're traveling eastbound from Loudon Village College, but no crashes. 23 minutes, Juven and the split. That's your travel time there. A real slow pocket around Oaken Hill this morning, so if you're passing through the area, caution. I-10 though, in about 7 minutes. Split to LA1, College, Casey Perkins, so 6 and Park clear. Let's take outside and step by the bridge.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 eligible Michelin tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. There have been a number of public safety topics hitting the news lately, and I want to cover them all at once when it comes to the Rittenhouse verdict and then how does that translate into what we can expect from the verdict in the Ahmaud Arbery killing? When it comes to a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, public safety has been at the forefront lately. Fortunately for us, we have access to the guy who literally wrote the book. The book's called Safeguarding America. He's got a career in law enforcement, criminal justice, and public safety. He is Paul Viollis, and he joins us now. Paul, welcome back to the show. How are you, sir?
Hey, doing great, Brian. How are you?
Doing very, very well. Interestingly enough, when these events were transpiring, I just opened up Safeguarding America to the table of contents for a refresher. Chapter 6, Part 5, Managing Your Personal Safety While at Public Events. I think that comes into play this morning.
It unfortunately does. Yeah, you're right, Brian.
Chapter 10, Police and Community Relations, Protest versus Riot. I think that comes into play this morning as well. So let's dive in. If we could start with the Christmas parade and then move over to the Rittenhouse verdict after that, because I think the Rittenhouse verdict is going to carry over to the Ahmaud Arbery trial. So
right.
This guy who's apparently on the run or allegedly on the run from another crime scene smashes into a parade. Let's start with, from a public safety perspective, a crowd control perspective. How does this happen? How does he get past barricades or checkpoints and the like to get to where he got?
I think it's a really good question, Brian. I think everything comes down to foreseeability and what the probability of risk is. So when you look at Waukesha and you look at the community, this is a parade that they have had for decades. And it's gone without incident. So they did what was reasonable and what you would expect people to do by putting up a barricade.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be reasonable for them to have to deploy solid concrete Jersey barriers to block off the entire area. I mean, I know that we look at and see, we sit back right now and we say, well, if they did that, he couldn't have gotten in, right? I get that. But I do think we have to look at what's prudent and probable. And so from a law enforcement perspective, I think it's more than fair to say that the police did what they needed to do at this point, and it was staffed appropriately. Where the ball gets dropped here at Waukesha is clearly at the prosecutor's office, because what we need to do, Brian, is we need to call this for what it is, and what it is a hate crime. What it is domestic terrorism. What it is an individual that intentionally targeted white people in order to kill them. And this is evidenced by his own statements on his own social media page. So, we need to make sure that we address this properly and not circumvent the issue. That's the issue. He needs to be charged with a hate crime. He needs to go to prison for the rest of his life. And that's what took place there. He wasn't fleeing from an incident. He intentionally drove in there. Remember something, Brian.
Yeah.
This guy, earlier in the month, took his car and ran over his baby's mother, for God's sake. So there's no question that he's a slug, and there's no question that this was intentional. So that's what we see there. But as we navigate towards Rittenhouse, Brian, I was pleasantly surprised, but I was shocked that they came back with an acquittal on all 5 charges.
Really?
I really was, and I have to tell you why. First of all, when you take a look at what happened in the totality of the incident, there was no question from a prosecutor's standpoint, whether people agree or disagree, strictly from the purity of the law, the prosecutor's office never really had enough information to bring these charges. But they did.
Yes.
And then you have this riot versus protest planned outside. People are there, and you have the jury, right, Brian? I mean, the beauty of the system, the jury system, is great, but at the end of the day, we're human beings, and I was really concerned the jury was going to be thinking, look, we've got to find something to convict him on, because I don't want to be the one that's responsible for mass rioting, what we saw before. But it was pleasantly surprising when I saw them. They came back, and they deliberated on the rule of law. They recognized the prosecutor failed blatantly and overtly in trying to even come remotely close to what a proof beyond a reasonable doubt standard should have been.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very happy to see that at least justice was done at that stage. But when we navigate, as you mentioned, into Georgia,
yes,
look, that was a damn execution. I can't see in any possible venue how any jury can come back without a guilty verdict against these guys that murdered this guy. I can't see it.
Okay, so for starters, I agree with you, but let me play devil's advocate just to run through the questions. Number one is, if you are a resident of a subdivision or a neighborhood and you see somebody who's continually snooping, prowling, possibly stealing from construction sites, do you have the right to do what they did? Obviously not in the killing, but in the citizen's arrest.
Citizen's arrest, yes. There's no question about that. But what happened was they confront this guy with a shotgun who's unarmed and exercise deadly physical force when first of all, their lives were not in imminent danger, and they were not in danger of great bodily injury. So there's no legal justification to exercise deadly physical force in their case.
Do you think this is going to take time to play out, or do you think this is going to be pretty quick and neat?
I think it's going to be quick, but I don't think it's going to be neat, Brian, because I'm shuddering when I think about this, but I'm not going to be shocked if they come back with an acquittal in Brunswick, Georgia.
Why
but
is that?
When that happens, oh my God! I mean, when I just think of the venue, look at the demographic of the jury, and look at really the temperature of the community. So I'm hoping they come back with a conviction, but I'm not going to be surprised if they come back with an acquittal. And we need to also bear in mind, Brian, as a sidebar here, the head of the Black Panther movement has been very clear and very vocal over the last 72 hours as to what they're planning on doing across the country. I think we're starting to see a taste of that the last 48 hours. So, jury's out, metaphorically as well as literally, on what's going to happen once the verdict comes out in Georgia.
So backing up to the Rittenhouse verdict, does public opinion or national public sentiment come into play? Like, if you're on the jury in the Rittenhouse trial, can you say anybody who wants to be angry needs to be angry about Brunswick, Georgia, not about this one? Like, you can fixate your anger elsewhere, because this is a lot more. You have a white guy who killed two other white guys and shot a third. You have a couple of white attorneys and a white judge. There is no black person involved in this, so why would there be outrage from the black community?
Because what the whole thing started with, and Brian, it's a really good point you bring that up. The impetus behind this were riots that were fueled by Antifa and BLM that were destroying a community, and that's a fact. It's not a racial statement; it's a factual statement.
Right.
So, as we fast forward through this, yes, it turns out that the color of those that are sitting inside this arena we call a courtroom are white. So it begs the question, why is this becoming a racial issue? Because it started as a racial issue, and it wants to be played out as a racial issue because, quite frankly, that sells media.
Yeah, it does. And when I think of hotbeds of racial overtones, hotbeds of racial tension, Kenosha, Wisconsin is never going to rise anywhere. They're not going to make the top 100.
Never. Absolutely not. But look what happened, though, right? When you look at Kenosha, look at Kenosha a year and a half ago. I mean, listen, I never heard of the town before. It's not like a major town. It's not like a Baton Rouge. It's Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly.
But
and
you know what?
Yes.
We're always going to remember it now.
No, totally. Kenosha, Wisconsin does not make the rankings on anything. I was hard pressed to find. I always try to find cultural references or pop culture references, and the best I could do for Kenosha, Wisconsin was, remember the movie Home Alone? John Candy's band. Remember John Candy? Of
course. How could you forget them?
They were called the Kenosha Kickers. The
That's
Kenosha
right.
Kickers. How you like that? So,
listen, I'm a huge John Candy fan, so you had me at John Candy.
Hey, look, his band in Home Alone comes from Kenosha, Wisconsin. That was literally the only one I could come up with. Otherwise, they're on nobody's map. Bringing this back around to Georgia, though, the climate and the tenor, does it change because of the Rittenhouse verdict?
It's a good question. Whenever you have a jury, there's a huge kind of question mark as to what looms over what they're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But I tend not to think so because they're two entirely different cases. I mean, when you look at Rittenhouse, and granted, it had a plethora of media coverage, but when you look at Rittenhouse versus this, there really are no similarities to this, none whatsoever. When you look at the case that's going to be played out in Brunswick, Georgia, there's absolutely no, if you just look at the purity of the law, at the rule of law, right, there's absolutely nothing there that would have justified deadly physical force. I mean, nothing. So I can't see how any jury, when they're deliberating, if they're looking at the material elements of the laws that these defendants are alleged to have violated, there's absolutely no room for mistake that they violated these laws. There's none.
Is there a comp for this trial to look at another trial maybe that would have similarities? Is there a comp? Because clearly Rittenhouse, the only thing that is comparable there is the timeline. I mean, is the timing of the two trials when they hit the media. Is there another case we can look at in our recent history that would say the Ahmaud Arbery verdict is going to mirror this, that, or the other?
Not that I can think of, because what we're talking about is 3-on-1, and an unarmed guy who, granted, is in a neighborhood that's got the neighborhood watch going for theft, not home invasion, not rape, but theft. And you exercise deadly physical force on an unarmed guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably a comp that we could get. I'd have to research that one, Brian, because there's certainly not one coming to mind right now.
You know, the closest I can get is George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin.
Yeah, but that was 1-on-1.
Yeah, I know.
This is 3-on-1.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you justify that? If you are the defense right now, Brian, if you're the defense attorney, how do you justify that your clients used deadly physical force? How do you say that you were in imminent fear of great bodily injury or imminent fear of death?
Yeah, I don't know that you can. I don't know that you can. And yeah, there's no comparable for it, and we're just going to have to watch it play out in real time. In the meanwhile, we are straight up out of time. He is a security expert, author of Safeguarding America, Paul Viollis. We always appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, Brian. Happy Thanksgiving to you and the family.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours as well. Here's CBS News. Yeah, the world is going to burn if these guys get off. Hi there. Sergeant Marshall? Come on in. Good morning. How are you doing? Doing well. How are you? Colonel Marshall. Good morning. Have a seat. You're up next. Now, there's a fundraising component of this, correct?
There is not.
Okay. All right. What all do I need to know?
Okay, so this is a Bayou Classic run, is what we call it. It's a ROTC run, both for the Navy and Army ROTCs.
Okay.
Navy ROTC and Southern University Army ROTC here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Grambling State University Army ROTC in Grambling. So we start the run from here at the stadium in Baton Rouge at the Mini Dome, and we run all the way to the Caesar Superdome in New Orleans.
Very cool.
So we have about 70 cadets.
70?
70 cadets combined with Navy, Army, and Grambling.
All right, I'm going to make fun of that, by the way.
Yeah.
That's barely more than a mile apiece.
Yeah.
And y'all are
now
heading
the
up
program
airline.
is bigger than that, but we only have 70 that volunteer to run.
Okay,
so.
we are going to have some fun with it. In terms of, like, do you got to try out? Do you have to have a minimum time in the mile?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. You said Colonel Marshall?
Yes, and I'm the professor of military science at Southern University.
And your first name?
David. Lieutenant Colonel David Marshall.
You said you're the professor of
military science at Southern University.
Yeah, this Sergeant Adams came by the other day, and I was so quick to say yes. I didn't get all the details. I was like, "This is cool."
Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot of fun. It's a good way to. I take Thursday and Friday off for Thanksgiving, obviously, which means talking pregame. Like I don't get to talk about the game because we're still 3 days out, and I'm very news cycle based. So, so I was like, yeah, this will give me a good excuse to talk.
Yeah.
Well, because you had to go up to Shreveport last year.
Yeah.
Were you part of it last year?
Yes.
Okay.
I was.
So we're gonna talk about the difference there. And then how long this program's going on, or how long, what kind of tradition behind it and whatnot.
Now, your WBRZ traffic update from Ashley Fouché.
Right now, if you're traveling around the 10-12 merge, use caution. This is considered a construction zone. Flowing speed 50, but right now this is not causing any additional delays for folks. The Plaquemine Ferry, it's running this morning, no problem there. The backups that I'm noticing the most are right here on the bridge eastbound. You probably could have guessed it yourself. And then hopping on the bridge from LA1, also kind of just crawling there. So it's 11 minutes from Haldane to College. The delays are not excessive, but of course they're still annoying if you're traveling across. 19 June to the 10-12 split. This travel time looks like it continues to improve as more folks are wrapping the work.
So how long have you been doing this job?
In this particular role, I'm in my 3rd year, but this is my 2nd stint hosting the morning show on the station. So overall, 9 years as a morning show host.
Yeah.
18 years in radio.
Oh yeah, you've been in it. Then. You're a vet.
Oh yeah, I started in October of 2004, so I guess I'm going into my 18th year in radio.
Yeah.
I started in October of 2004, and I was working overnights over at Clear Channel at WJBO,
Yeah.
and I was working overnights. My job was to babysit stations. Like if something ridiculously massive happened, we had a little cordless phone that I had to carry around with me, and I would answer the phone and put them in charge with somebody who could do something about it. I had no responsibility whatsoever except to stay awake. Well, that was October of 2004. August of 2005, shit changed with the hurricane, with Katrina. I mean, I was all in for, every shift available, every possible type of thing I could learn, and it really escalated things quickly as far as the career was concerned. So, yeah, it was, yeah.
So are you from Baton Rouge?
I am originally born in New Orleans, raised on the North Shore.
Okay.
Moved to Baton Rouge for LSU. Met my wife while I was at LSU, and we just stayed. So.
You know what we missed, Brian?
What?
7 years ago today, OBJ made that catch.
That was today? With the. Okay.
Man, 7 years.
That seems, yeah. That does not.
It's weird to think that he's been in the league for that long. At least for me.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping he went to the Saints, but I'm not
Same.
a Rams fan.
No. I was torn about it. I love that he's an LSU Tiger. I love that he's an over-the-top personality. But drama seems to follow him.
Yeah.
Cleveland is doing well without him.
Yeah.
He goes to Los Angeles, and what happens in their first game?
Well, imagine he and Mike Thomas.
Well, Mike Thomas is gone. Mike Thomas is never playing for New Orleans again.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought he was injured.
He's probably not.
He is injured, yeah. And
he got a huge contract.
Yes, he did, and his nickname outwardly is Can't Guard Mike. His nickname in the locker room is Can't Stand Mike.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Sean Payton does not do well with locker room cancers. He's cleaned house before, so. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, I was thinking OBJ would go to the Saints because he's from New Orleans.
From New Orleans, playing in front of that
Back
hometown
at home,
crowd.
man. I didn't even think about it twice. I was like, he'll go.
Well, yeah.
At this point, he wants the ring. He's been on 2 not great franchises.
Cleveland made a run last
They
year.
did,
But they did it without him.
Exactly.
They did it
That's
while
the
he was
thing.
hurt.
Yeah.
8:38. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. All right, time to start looking ahead to the weekend. Yeah, I know it's only Tuesday, but the weekend is actually getting started early. Well, of course, we've got Thanksgiving, but this is Bayou Classic weekend, which means events all week long, literally getting underway tomorrow. Got Lieutenant Colonel David Marshall with us. He's a professor of military science over at Southern University and heading up the team that is running the ball from Southern to the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. Lieutenant Colonel Marshall, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you on here. Okay, the Bayou Classic run. I was introduced to this a couple days ago, and I'm fascinated by it. You guys literally run the ball from Southern to New Orleans.
Yeah, we like to say that, but actually we take turns running. So this tradition started back in the early 1990s. Roughly around 1992. It was actually started by the Navy, and since then the Navy and the Army ROTC have partnered to keep this tradition going. So it's a real logistical nightmare. So the way
I would
that we
imagine.
do it is we have multiple vans, we have state troopers, and we have a charter bus in order for the cadets and midshipmen to relax in between runs. So it's roughly about 85 to 90 miles to New Orleans from the mini dome at Southern University. We start about 0500 hours in the morning on Friday, and then we just leapfrog all the way until we make it to the Superdome.
5 a.m. Friday. So
5 a.m. on Friday.
About how long does it take from start to finish?
So we've been keeping the record. So our fastest time has been 7 hours. Our longest time has been 8 hours. So we like to keep it between 7 hours, 15 minutes, 7 hours, 20 minutes. Just depends on how fast the cadets and midshipmen run.
I mean, that's a pretty good clip.
Yes, it is. It is. And it's a little bit better here running from Baton Rouge to New Orleans because we go straight down Airline Highway.
Okay.
It's mostly flat surface versus the run we did this spring in Shreveport from Grambling to Shreveport, which had a lot of hills in it. So it sort of slowed us down a little bit, but we still achieved the goal of camaraderie and the spirit decor between the ROTC program. So that's the real goal of it.
Okay, so this is the Army ROTC and the Navy ROTC.
Yes.
This is Southern and Grambling.
Yes.
There feels like a lot of room for y'all to do a little ribbing back and forth, a little challenging amongst others.
Yes. So because I'm a graduate of Southern University, I'm also a graduate of Army ROTC. I was commissioned in 2001. I figured that it would be just the right thing to do to incorporate Grambling State University ROTC in this program as well. So. Yes, it is a little bit of trash talking as we run the ball down there, but game time starts. Everybody's focused on who wins.
Absolutely.
Records don't matter. Everybody knows that records don't matter between Southern and Grambling. Only thing that matters is who wins that Bayou Classic.
100%. 100. Well, about 80%. You got to reserve 20% for the Battle of the Bands as well.
Yeah.
So
Can't forget about
it is an overall experience, not just the game on the field. 90 miles-ish in 8 hours. That's better than 10 miles per hour. Like, that's a pretty good clip to be running at. How far does each guy run?
Yeah, so a cadet will run at least 1 mile. We have some high-speed cadets we call in the Army that want to get out there and run about 2 miles, maybe 2.5, and then they break it back down to 1 mile once we get midway. But all the cadets are we choose them on a OML. We call it the Art of Merit list. So we look at their grades, we look at their physical fitness abilities, we look at how well they communicate between each other, how well they participate in community service projects, and that's how we come up with our list. So we have 70 cadets along with the cadre members, so that'll put us around 80 runners.
Okay, so yeah, you get about 1 mile apiece. I mean, y'all can definitely knock that out.
Yeah, we can definitely knock that out, and that's why I'm hoping that we finish closer to the 7-hour time limit.
Now, logistically speaking, and you mentioned this was a part of it. Y'all run straight up Airline Highway. Yes. That has got to present a nightmare of a convoy for other travelers. How does that work?
Yeah, so The way it works is we have 4 15-passenger vans. One of those vans are dedicated strictly for medical purpose. We call it a casualty evacuation van, just in case something happens, sort of like our ambulance. So we have that van in the back. We have a charter bus, and then we have 4 state troopers, in addition to the local parish sheriff's departments. So we go through 7 parishes, and just to name a few: St. James, Ascension, East Baton Rouge, St. Charles, Orleans, Jefferson parishes. We go through all those parishes, and not to mention that it's Black Friday as well. So we have a lot of shoppers out on the highways, a lot of intersections to cross. So it's very important that we have that state trooper and local parish support in order to get through those intersections.
I'm trying to picture in my mind what shopping venues would be along. Fortunately, you don't have a whole lot of shopping malls along that stretch, so you will have people out and about, to be sure.
Right. Not so much the malls, but you do have the
en route to and
shoppers.
from. Yeah, absolutely, en route to and from. So, who's got, between Southern and Grambling, who's got the better times here? Do y'all actually map that out all the way down to?
Well, since we just started with Grambling this spring, we haven't calculated the times yet. So that's something we'll probably take a look at this year. This fall.
Hey, this is completely off topic. Is there any way to follow this as it goes? I mean, we live in a social media world. Do y'all live stream this or anything?
Yes. So we have 2 media individuals, both a part of the program. I think we're also going to get some support from KSLA this time. So we'll have media support. We also have the internal support from the universities as well.
We've got Lieutenant Colonel David Marshall with us. He's heading up the Bayou Classic run, where they physically run the football from the Mini Dome to the Caesars Superdome. This is happening Friday morning. Going to be a cold start for y'all. Mid-40s, I believe, to start off the morning. The good news is it looks like the front with the rain is going to be pushing up, so you're not going to be running in the adverse conditions, just the cooler conditions. Now, how many years have you taken part in this?
So I did it as a cadet. I'm a graduate of Southern, as I said before. I've been the professor of military science since 2019. So since I've been the PMS there at Southern, we've done this run.
Okay.
So I'm going into my 2.5 year, almost 3rd year as a PMS, and I'll continue to do it until I retire.
How well did this adapt up to Grambling last year when the game had to be moved?
It was a bit of a culture shock because we're just used to doing it in New Orleans, but we adapt to change. So there's nothing that cadets can do, or midshipmen for that matter.
Back roads, different route. I mean, it might be a little bit different, but nonetheless, it's one foot in front of the other.
That's right.
When it's stacking up on run day, is this a matter of there's an orchestra? I mean, this is the Army and the Navy. There's got to be orchestration behind it. This isn't a matter of just nobody's going all Terrell Owens saying, just give me the damn ball.
Yeah. For the most part, we just have a formation before we start the run. We sort of line it out, Army, Navy, and make sure everybody gets that opportunity. We put the fastest guys on the first 2 cycle of runs, and then that way we get a good start once we get out down Airline Highway.
I mean, what if somebody doesn't want to give it up? They got the ball and they're going.
Hey, if they don't want to give it up, we just let them run.
Okay.
And whenever they get tired, most of the time they'll signal us with a hand or slow down, and we'll stop and pass the ball off and start back running.
Very, very cool stuff. Now, I assume once you get down there, it's party on. I mean, once you're down there, your job is done. You get to enjoy all the other festivities of a Bayou Classic weekend?
Yeah, so on Fridays, once we reach the Caesars Superdome, which should be around 1330 time frame, we'll take photos. The cadets and midshipmen are released for the day. Saturday morning, we'll meet with all the Bayou Classic coordinators. We're actually presenting the ball to Procter & Gamble this year, so we'll do a small rehearsal. Grambling State are in charge of the color guard, so they'll do a small rehearsal, and then we'll get ready for game time.
Very, very cool stuff. I got about a minute and a half left. I got to ask you about the ROTC programs at Southern University. How well received are they? How not well received? How well attended are they? What kind of numbers are y'all looking at?
So right now, we have Southeastern University that falls under Southern University. We have Baton Rouge Community College that falls under Southern University as well. So our cadet body is roughly about 120, 125 cadets.
Okay.
It's a very rigorous program. The first and second year are pretty much elective years. You can join with no obligation at all. Your third year is when you really have to make a decision as to servicing yourself in the military, whether that's active duty, reserves, or National Guard. So once cadets reach the third level, it's game on. So
Yeah.
they have to ramp up their physical fitness. They have to ramp up their academics. They have to increase their knowledge on navigation skills, on Army tactics, all the things that officers do in the military. Leadership, communication, core competencies, that's what we harp on once you get to the junior and senior years.
Very, very cool stuff, and a fantastic level of service as well. I can't thank you enough for that service throughout the military. You know what? I was debating whether or not I was going to ask. I got to ask.
Oh, here we go.
Has there ever been a fumble?
Yes. So we had our first fumble in Grambling, but if you remember, it rained the entire day, so we didn't penalize anybody for dropping the ball.
I just can't imagine dropping the ball in front of 70 other dudes that are just ready to give you the business.
Yeah, it was very nasty. It rained the whole way to Shreveport, but that was expected. Somebody was going to drop the ball, so that's okay. But we're not expecting anybody to drop the ball.
No,
Friday.
No, and should be nice and cool and clear skies to boot. He is Lieutenant Colonel David Marshall. Good luck on the run Friday and enjoy the weekend. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thanks.
That was fun.
I appreciate that.
No, man, my pleasure. Thank you so much. You said about 125 or so?
Yeah.
That's a decent number, man.
It's a good number, but some of those cadets don't make it.
Yeah.
So we start off about 125 at the beginning of the semester. We'll lose about 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because of grades, because they can't meet the physical. Physical part of it.
Yeah, I get that. I guess my question was more based off of enthusiasm of this generation to serve their country.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I find. If you can't cut it, you can't cut it. That's fine. But you had the want, and that means something.
Yeah. So it's about half and half. So we have half of those cadets really want to serve because their parents serve, their grandparents, like my mom and dad, or my dad and grandfather served. So I wanted to serve. And then the other half are there because of the monetary incentives. Like they get their school paid for, they get monthly stipends. They know once they reach the senior year that they're going to start getting paid as a second lieutenant for some of them. They're on a scholarship.
Yeah.
So
it can be a game changer.
yeah,
It could be.
I
It could
don't
be
knock it,
It could be a family tree changer.
Yeah. Honestly, my mom didn't have money to pay for school, so I joined the National Guard, and once I made it through the program, I went active duty. So you have options, and I tell kids all the time, look, if you don't want to do a 20-year career, that's fine, but use the military as a stepping stone.
Absolutely.
Don't incur all those student loan debts and all
Dude,
that stuff.
I'm 45 and still paying off student loans.
I am too.
I'm still paying off student loans, so it's it's one of those. If I had to do it over again, I probably would have walked that path. It's one of those ones that, in hindsight, really looks that much more appealing. So, yeah. But man, congratulations! This is gonna be fun. Y'all gonna have a good time.
I'm looking forward to it.
I can't. If an Army guy drops the ball, the Navy guys are gonna give him shit, and vice versa. Like,
see, the Navy didn't run in the spring.
Oh.
They had a spring event going on that weekend, so they didn't get to run. But they're going to run Friday, so we'll have a good combination of cadets and midshipmen.
I could feel the atmosphere from here. Just a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, it's fun, man. I love
guys
to
being guys.
See the cadets run. They enjoy doing it. It gives them a sense of pride. I guess they really love doing that kind of stuff, man. They run with their chest.
Well,
out,
it's one thing that not a lot of guys get to tell. Like, it's a story you get to share.
Yeah.
And it's a part of the overall. I mean, since what you said, 92.
Yeah.
That's more than 30 years worth already. So, that's good stuff.
I appreciate the opportunity.
No, my pleasure.
My NCO just told me about it last night. He's like, look, I need you to go down to the radio station. Like, I'm good. That's fine. I'm going. I'm never going to miss the opportunity.
Well, we got Mama Jag up at the front.
Yeah,
I don't tell her no. So.
Yeah.
Well, and this was an easy one. This was as soon as I met Sergeant Adams, he told me what y'all are doing. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Where did you meet him, by the way? That guy is
No, he
all
was here.
over
He
the
was in
place.
the lobby.
Oh, he came.
He came down here.
He is everywhere.
Yeah.
He's I'm
And
losing
he
him.
is he's a large individual.
Yeah, and
That's a big dude.
He is. He's retiring. I really hate to lose him because he builds relationships with everybody, man.
Well, you got one over here. Open door from
Yeah,
here on in.
I
So,
appreciate it.
No,
Thank you very
absolutely.
much.
Absolutely. And if there's anything outside of this, whether it be like recruiting or talking about new programs or whatever, we're here.
Thank you. And
No.
trust me, I'm going to take you up on that
No,
offer.
you better. Absolutely.
I promise I will. Thank you
Absolutely.
very much.
Thank you much. Good to
Happy
meet you.
Thanksgiving.
You too. You too. And thank you for your service.
Y'all take care.
Did I forget to tell him that we were still on? No, he did not. That was shit enlightening as hell. That was so good. Like that was. I feel like not doing a show tomorrow. Like that's how much I enjoyed that shit.
I mean, hey, if you want to call it off,
That's. No, we got guests. Someone would have to get in Franz's way. Hello. No, tomorrow I already tease this. Franz is on. We're going to talk to the folks at LSU about revenge spending. Oh yeah, this is going to be good. That's at 7:15. Hopefully, Congressman Graves at 7:35. I'm debating whether or not to get into anything real with the congressman or go over recipes. He's going to bring food, probably if he's in. No, if he's. I assume he's in town.
if he is, I hope to God, 'cause I'm still going to money and home.
Oh, you haven't even gotten the day he brought muffins up here. Oh, you were here for the muffins. Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Rocco's at Immaculate Conception in New Orleans. It's such a beautiful church. Hey, did you get a picture? Okay, good. That's what I'm definitely going to want.
Yeah, I thought of it last second, like right as it ended, and he was.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And he was doing something. So cool.
One segment to go on Mornings with Brian Haldane. Before we hand off to the Fox News Rundown, we will have we'll have a show tomorrow for sure. No show on Thursday or Friday, Thanksgiving, and then Black Friday. We'll just take a short week as a result of that. We're going to have a CBS program on Thanksgiving Day, a best of on Friday morning. I can't help but think that the interview we just did is going to be part of that best of, if for no other reason, then they'll be in the thick of it Friday morning as they run from the Mini Dome at Southern all the way down to the Caesars Superdome. By the way, thanks again to Lieutenant Colonel David Marshall for everything, for the run, for his service. And how about the level of trained media professional right there? Getting the sponsors' names in for Procter & Gamble and the Caesars Superdome. I mean, dude's on point. Somebody fumbled the football last year. I cannot imagine the level of you-know-what that dude got. So much fun. All right. We're not, we're just about done here for the day. I do need to remind you, hey, with Thanksgiving 2 days from today, get ahead of the holidays before the holidays get ahead of you. I'm telling you about Go Slim Nutrition. I've been taking part in the program for some time now. I'm so close to my goal weight, I would say, taste it. Look, it's not about diet food. They're a protein-based diet, right? You're going to get bars, shakes, and a few meals, but it's not about the diet itself. You can get diet food anywhere. With Go Slim, it's about the accountability. Every single Friday, well, not this Friday, but every single Friday, I go over there and I weigh in. And I talk with Vicky or any member of her team about what I've done right, what I've done wrong. I talk about how I can do better. We map out what's going on socially throughout the week, how to make the program work within my lifestyle. Want to learn more? Give them a call at 763-9600, 763-9600, or swing on by. They're on Bluebonnet at Perkins Road. Jumpstart plans are available right now. Get yourself a 3-day Jumpstart plan. Get yourself introduced to the program over at Go Slim Nutrition, GEAUX SlimBR.com. Also, since I'm just about out of time, Black Friday sales going on right now over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. This is at both locations of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet, 4065 Florida Boulevard in Mid-City or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. These Black Friday sale prices are available if you mention you heard about it on this show. Get yourself a name brand mattress, a queen size name brand mattress, originally $900 or $899.99, marked down to $399.99. You're talking about a $500 discount on a queen size mattress. They've got deals on the kings, the twins. They've got a pillow package deal. Oh, free delivery if you mention it here. Mention you heard about it here. Free pillow if you mention you heard about it here. And the Black Friday savings are available before Black Friday. They're available right now at 4065 Florida Boulevard or the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2 for the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. We got to get out of here. Tomorrow's show already getting stacked up. Attorney Franz Borghardt will be in for Legally Served. I'm pretty sure we'll have Congressman Garrett Graves. Also going to talk about some retail shopping with the folks over at LSU and get you set for the Thanksgiving weekend. That's going to do it for us today. Fox News Rundown's coming your way next, followed by the Brian Kilmeade Show. Thank y'all so much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, YouTube, I got to skedaddle. We'll see y'all tomorrow.